Chapter 31:15. Brother Chu, please don't worry. Su Zhuoyang smiled bitterly. He looked at Chu Muhuan, then at Leopard Taoist Master and Master Qing Chen, and explained patiently, this person's identity is a bit special. Before I see him, I can't reveal his identity. Of course, you three should rest assured. That person's friendship with me is not inferior to yours. If I didn't trust him, I would never have come to the West Sea. Su Zhuoyang turned his hand over, and a thumb-sized black object appeared in his hand. He said, that person has already given this to me. After I checked it, I found that the information recorded in it is detailed and true. It doesn't seem to be fake. Can I take a look at it? Chu Muhuan's brows did not relax as he asked. Of course. Su Zhuoyang did not hesitate. He raised his hand, and the black object flew out. Chu Muhuan grabbed it, and it fell into his hand. Then, Chu Muhuan raised his hand and was about to place it on his forehead when Su Zhuoyang hurriedly shouted, Brother Chu, this object can't be seen with divine sense. You need to use eye-clearing magic. Oh, so strange? Although Chu Muhuan was surprised, there was a hint of joy in his eyes. Then Chu Muhuan placed his hand in front of Su Zhuoyang's eyes. His eyes flickered with a faint green light. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, he finally withdrew it. After he closed his eyes for a moment, he raised his hand and the item flew back into Su Zhuoyang's hand. How is it? Leopard Taoist Master could not help but ask. It's true. Chu Muhuan replied calmly. If you don't believe me, you can check it yourself. Hee, if I could see it, would I still need to ask? Leopard Taoist Master laughed. I don't have as many magic skills as you. I'll take a look. Master Qing Chen stretched out her hand, and a jade-like hand came out of her sleeve. Leopard Taoist Master's withered yellow eyes could not help but glance at the delicate wrist. Master, please. Su Zhuoyang handed the object to Master Qing Chen and said with a smile. However, I must remind you that this object can't be seen with Buddhist sense. I know. Master Qing Chen smiled, took the item and said, since the divine perception technique of the Confucian school can't be used, the Buddhist perception of the Buddhist sect won't work either. Master Qing Chen took the object and did not use any magical power. Instead, she looked it up and down with her beautiful eyes. After a while, she nodded and said, this is the ink cloud pupil used in ancient records. It has long been lost. Not to mention any recorded method. Even the materials were nowhere to be found. This poor nun has seen the image of this item in a pile of old papers. As he spoke, Wizard Qing Chen raised Mo Yuntong. However, he did not place it on his forehead. Instead, he placed it next to his ear. A faint light flashed in Master Qing Chen's ears and slowly covered Mo Yuntong. I thought that the heavenly ear connection could only be used for hearing. After practicing the heavenly ear connection, one could hear things from 100 miles, 1,000 miles, or even 10,000 miles away. Who would have thought that the heavenly ear connection could be used in this way? Su Tanyue doesn't practice Buddhism, so he doesn't know about the Buddhist magic. Master Qing Chen opened his eyes and said lightly, how can the heavenly ear connection of the Buddhist sect be so shallow? After practicing the heavenly ear connection, one can not only hear everything including the sound of heaven, the sound of human beings and the sound of the three evils, but also recognize the 3,000 macro worlds according to the sound. He can attain the Buddha fruit. Yes, the Buddhist magic is indeed extraordinary. Immortal Leopard nodded vigorously. I never thought that in the Buddhist sect, one could use their ears to judge people. Then why do we need eyes? Of course, we need to use our eyes to see people's hearts. Master Qing Chen said in a cold tone. She took the ink cloud pupil from her ear and handed it to Su Zhuoyang. She said, the content inside should be consistent with what Su Tanyue said. I also believe in Su Tanyue. Good. Su Zhuoyang took the ink cloud pupil and carefully put it away. He said with a smile, thank you for your trust. However, he immediately raised his eyes to look at the dark sea and said, this is not the place that person invited us to. We still have to hurry and get there before dawn. Who is this person? Immortal Leopard was unhappy. I came from the Holy Land and spent a lot of time. It's fine that he didn't meet us here, but why didn't he wait for us here? Su Zhuoyang smiled faintly, his eyes flashing with a silver-white brilliance. He looked around and said with great confidence, "Leopard immortal friend, as long as you see that person, you will definitely not say such words again. That person has a good reason for not coming." With that, Su Zhuoyang looked up at a direction in the distance. His silver-white eyes were particularly eye-catching in the night. A golden sword light appeared under his feet, and he was about to soar into the sky. "Let's go. I'll lead the way. It won't take more than 6 hours." Speaking of this, Su Zhuoyang naturally looked back and glanced at the three people. At the same time, his eyes swept over the lava island under their feet. "Let's go!" Immortal Leopard roared around him. He stepped on the wind and flew more than 100 feet away. Seeing that Immortal Leopard had left, Master Qingchen and Chu Muhuan waved their sleeves. The colorful Wan and the cloud crane flew out. The two birds stretched their wings in the air, but none of them dared to make a loud sound. Just as they were about to step on their mounts, Su Zhuoyang suddenly said hurriedly, "Wait." "Oh, Su Swansea, what's the matter?" Immortal Leopard asked unhappily as the wind stopped. Immortal Leopard, Master Qingchen, the silver-white color in Su Zhuoyang's eyes had disappeared. It was replaced by a kind of astonishment. "Who arrived here first?" "It's me." Master Qingchen's face also showed a strange expression. She followed Su Zhuoyang's gaze and looked at the lava island under their feet. "This place. I've already checked it. There's nothing wrong. Could it be that Su Tanyue found something?" "Hee, it's really interesting." Su Zhuoyang's face showed a thoughtful expression. "I didn't expect to meet an overseas cultivator in the depths of the West Sea. And the magic array outside the cultivator's cave is also strange. It seems to be very powerful. If my 1,000 eyes hadn't just improved, I'm afraid I wouldn't have discovered the strangeness inside." When Master Qingchen heard this, her face changed slightly and became a little hot. She didn't expect that there was an overseas cultivator hiding under the feet of the four of them. It was especially hidden from her heavenly ears, but it was discovered by Su Zhuoyang's 1,000 eyes. She wanted to activate her heavenly ears again, but after thinking for a while, she gave up the idea. Since she couldn't find it just now, what was the use of finding it now? "See, this is?" When Chu Muhuan heard what Su Zhuoyang said, he had already displayed his magical power. His eyes were faintly clear like water. After looking for a while, he couldn't help but cry out in amazement. "Brother Su's 1,000 eyes is really powerful. If you hadn't reminded me, I wouldn't have been able to find the strangeness of this magic array, even if I looked at it 10 times. This magic array seems to." After listening to Chu Muhuan's words, Master Qingchen's face became less awkward, but she was also very surprised. She asked, "Chu Tanyue, what does this magic array seem to be?" Chu Muhuan smiled bitterly and shook his head slightly. "This magic array is hidden in the void. I can only see a little bit with my magical power. It seems to be similar to a legendary ancient magic array, but I can't remember what kind of magic array it is at the moment." "Ah?" Master Qingchen was shocked. "There's such an expert in the West Sea?" Looking at Su Zhuoyang again, he touched his chin with his hand, and his eyes flashed with a silver-white color, as if he was thinking about something. "Su Swansea, what's there to think about?" Leopard Jinren said anxiously. "Isn't it just right to have someone who is proficient in magic arrays to replace that bald donkey? If he doesn't agree, the four of us can just kill him. What's there to hesitate about?" "Leopard Jinren, it's not that simple," Chu Muhuan said with a smile. "Since there's such an ancient magic array and he's cultivating in seclusion in the West Sea, the overseas cultivators are usually more tyrannical than us. If we disturb him and can't persuade him, our tracks will be exposed. It's not good for this trip." Although Chu Muhuan didn't say that the four of them would work together, his tone was extremely obvious. "The overseas cultivators are powerful. I admit it," Leopard Jinren sneered. "But along the way, there aren't any powerful sea beasts within 1,000 miles. There's only a sea beast whose strength is between the 3rd and 4th level of essence power in about 800 miles. If there's really an overseas cultivator who's more powerful than us, the surrounding sea beasts wouldn't be so weak, right? Then the overseas cultivator wouldn't need to use such a magic array to protect himself, right? Although that's the case, the real situation may not be so. Master Qingchen said faintly. The reason why overseas cultivators are called overseas cultivators is that most of them are cynical and can't coexist peacefully with us three continents' immortal friends, so they cultivate in seclusion. These overseas cultivators can't be judged by common sense. In addition, many of the overseas cultivators, what they cultivate isn't the ordinary cultivation method of our three continents. It has nothing to do with us Confucian cultivators or Buddhist sects. Chu Muhuan frowned slightly as if he thought of something and said in a low voice, their cultivation method is strange, and their divine abilities are even sharper. The 9th level of essence power isn't suitable for their realm. Seeing that Master Qingchen and Chu Muhuan were refuting him, Leopard Jinren's withered yellow eyes rolled. He opened his mouth and was about to spit out demonic aura. Seeing this, Su Zhuoyang hastily flew down a few feet and said anxiously, Leopard Jinren, don't be too hasty. Leopard Jinren didn't want to give Su Zhuoyang face, so he snorted coldly and put his claws behind his back. He raised his head and looked at the night sky. A bright moon had appeared in the horizon. The moonlight fell on the surface of the sea like water, and the rarely seen bright white splashes of water surged. Tiny silver fish swam along with the sparkling waves, and the sound of the waves entered their ears. Chapter 31:16. Su Zhuoyang discussed with Chu Muhuan and Master Qingchen in a low voice for a moment. Then he raised his voice and said to Leopard's spiritual master, Fellow immortal leopard, I've decided. I'll ask this overseas cultivator to come out. Of course, even if he can help, we can't tell him our purpose now. If he's not willing to help, we'll go by ourselves. You should have done this earlier. Leopard's spiritual master sneered. You can just call for that person. Why ask me? Haha, fellow immortal leopard. You should stand with us. Su Zhuoyang said carefully. If you stand there, if that overseas cultivator comes out and sees us surrounding him, I'm afraid there will be some misunderstanding. There might be some twists and turns for no reason. Leopard's spiritual master looked at Su Zhuoyang several times and didn't say anything. His figure turned into the wind and floated behind the three people. However, he was still 100 feet away and didn't come any closer. Brother Chu. Su Zhuoyang was satisfied when he saw this. He turned around and was about to speak when Chu Muhuan suddenly slapped his forehead and exclaimed, I remember now. This seems to be the legendary heavenly cycle star formation. How is that possible? Su Zhuoyang's eyes lit up. Apart from being surprised, he was also ecstatic. It's said that this cosmic star formation has been lost for a long time. Only the immortal palace, haha brother Su, I'm just guessing. I can't be sure. Chu Muhuan's face also showed a trace of joy. If it's the legendary cosmic star formation, this formation isn't something you and I can break. It's not good for us to attack this formation without permission. Brother, please use the cloud crane technique and transmit our goodwill into the formation. Su Zhuoyang urged. Chu Muhuan shook his head slightly. If it's the cosmic star formation, its defense must be flawless. I can't guarantee that the cloud crane can fly in. Let's try it. Su Zhuoyang smiled. If Brother's cloud crane can break through this formation, then our chances of entering the West Sea's lost treasure will be reduced by 20%. Ha 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 ha. Chu Muhuan laughed heartily and made a grabbing motion with his hand. A clear and crystalline light flashed like moonlight, and a 3-inch tall cloud crane phantom appeared. Chu Muhuan softly muttered a few words at the cloud crane's neck. Then he pointed with his finger. Quick! The cloud crane's body stretched and flew toward the lava island below everyone's feet. As Yunhe charged into the lava, Chu Muhuan's spirit cleansing eyes and Su Zhuoyang's thousand-eyes pupils were activated. They stared closely at Yunhe's figure. A moment later, the unusual phenomenon in their eyes disappeared at the same time. They looked at each other with a trace of understanding in their eyes. Sure enough, the cloud crane silhouette flew out and landed in front of Chu Muhuan. Chu Muhuan waved his sleeve again, and the silhouette disappeared into his sleeve. Looks like this Su will have to take some responsibility. Su Zhuoyang smiled and opened his mouth. A golden sword light flew out. Su Zhuoyang spread his hands and formed a strange sword seal. The golden sword light split into 8 in midair. Buzz. as it emitted a strong buzzing sound and rushed into the lava. Rumble the moment the 8 golden lights fell into the lava. The entire lava island let out an earth-shaking sound. The sea near the lava island shook violently. Ouch! Leopard Spiritual Master, who was dozens of feet away from the 3 of them, suddenly exclaimed. He had been coldly observing Su Zhuoyang and the others' actions. His eyes were fixed on the sparkling and translucent moon disk. At this moment, along with the violent rumbling of the lava island, countless dark clouds suddenly appeared in the clear night sky around the full moon. Layers upon layers of dark clouds covered the entire area. Although there was no lightning or rain yet, within the layers of clouds, there were faint flashes of light that were beginning to appear. Crackle! A tall and skinny figure emerged from the lava island amidst a series of flashes of lightning and thunder. Before he could reveal himself in midair, a voice that sounded like a ferocious god sneered coldly in the night sky. Hee, the 2 old fogies didn't dare to come themselves, so they sent 4 little bastards over instead. Come. Let this Xiao see how you 4 foreign cultivators are going to capture this Xiao. Following this furious roar like that of a killing god, countless lightning bolts rained down from the dark clouds in the sky, completely enveloping the 4 of them. 9 heavens lightning strike. Chu Muhuan was completely stunned. When the lightning and fire were almost within reach, he seemed to have thought of something. He hurriedly threw the rattan cane in his hand and opened his mouth. Swoosh! With a breath of vital energy, the rattan cane suddenly turned into a towering tree. Its green branches and leaves expanded wildly, as if to cover Su Zhuoyang and the others. Master Qingchen was also shocked. She was even faster than Chu Muhuan. The space-splitting cauldron rushed out from her hand, and a flame appeared. Suddenly, a huge fireball appeared about 100 feet away, blocking the top of Chu Muhuan's rattan cane. Fellow immortal, calm down. Su Zhuoyang's flying sword fell into the lava island and didn't fly out. His face was even more panicked. Seeing the 9 heavens lightning strike, he couldn't understand what Xiaohua was saying. He could only hurriedly shout. We are fellow immortals from the continent, not foreign cultivators. We are not sent by your enemies. Fellow immortal, you only need to withdraw your magical power, and we will explain everything. The human figure that rushed out of the lava island was naturally Xiaohua. When he saw that the capital star formation was discovered and the sword light fell, he had long suspected that the 2 old ghosts from the Immortal Ascension sect and the Immortal Music sect were here. However, when he saw that the 4 people standing in midair outside the lava island were not old monsters above the nascent soul stage, he didn't take a closer look. He thought that they were cultivators from the 4 islands overseas who came to seek revenge under the orders of the 2 old ghosts. As soon as they met, they used the thunder-attracting technique. Moreover, the spirit-killing vital light and the Tai green light were already prepared. When the 9 heavens lightning strike struck, he believed that even if the 4 of them were of the nascent soul stage, he could definitely kill 1 or 2 of them with a sneak attack. Fellow immortal? However, when he heard Su Zhuoyang call him fellow immortal, and the language was very different from the language of the Dawn Rain continent. It was very obscure and had a very ancient style. It was also different from the language of Qua rhyming and the others from the Sunset Island. Xiaohua couldn't help but be surprised. Fortunately, he could understand the 2 words fellow immortal. In particular, when he scanned the 4 people with his divine thought, he was even more stunned. He pointed at Su Zhuoyang and said in an incredulous voice, You are a Confucian cultivator? Rumble! Just as Xiaohua was wondering, the thunder-attracting technique finally fell. The first thing it hit was naturally Master Qingchen's splitting cauldron. The fireballs that were hundreds of feet long exploded along with the lightning. It was as powerful as a volcanic sea of fire. However, in the blink of an eye, all the fireballs were destroyed. Pfft! Wizard Qingchen's face turned red, and he spat out a small mouthful of blood. The cracked space cauldron fell into Wizard Qingchen's hand with a wail. Buddhism sect. Seeing Master Qingchen's clothes and the familiar Buddhist awareness, Xiaohua's mouth was wide open, and he could hardly close it. Xiaohua's indescribable shock made him forget the layers of thunder. He only used his eyes and divine thought to look between Su Zhuoyang and Master Qingchen. He was more greedy than looking at his first love from more than 10 years ago. Fellow immortal, seeing that Master Qing Chen's splitting cauldron couldn't withstand Xiaohua's thunder, Su Zhuoyang was anxious again. He knew that the Buddha fire of the splitting cauldron was similar to the thunder falling from the ninth heaven. Perhaps it wouldn't be destroyed by the thunder falling from the ninth heaven. However, Chu Muhuan's rattan staff was of the vegetation attribute. Although it wasn't afraid of heavenly thunder, the rattan staff itself was weak and might not be able to withstand heavenly thunder. If the rattan staff was destroyed, the trip to the West Sea would be much more difficult. Therefore, he had to beg for mercy. Please stop the thunder falling from the ninth heaven. Don't hurt fellow immortal Chu's imperial equipment. We will leave immediately. Su Zhuoyang spoke too much, so Xiaohua naturally didn't understand. However, looking at Su Zhuoyang's anxiety and the four people standing together, Xiaohua understood a little. Seeing that the thunder was about to strike, although the big tree transformed from the rattan staff wasn't afraid of heavenly thunder, under the seemingly endless thunder, its green leaves had already fallen everywhere. Green light flashed rapidly. Xiaohua hurriedly urged his magic power to stop the thunder and shouted, "If you're not from the 4 islands abroad, where are you from? Quickly tell me, otherwise don't blame me for being impolite." Xiaohua spoke too much, but Su Zhuoyang also didn't understand. He had the same feeling as Xiaohua. He only felt that Xiaohua's language was simple and unadorned, as if it was passed down from ancient times. However, if he listened carefully, it was specious and he didn't understand it at all. Fellow immortal Su Zhuoyang smiled bitterly, cupped his fists and bowed. "We're not cultivators from the 5 islands abroad." However, after saying half a sentence, he stopped again. Xiaohua clearly didn't understand him, so what was the point of him saying it? Fellow immortal? Xiaohua, on the other hand, heard these 2 words clearly. His eyes turned, and he opened his mouth. Puff! A beam of Tai azure light rushed out of his mouth. It danced in the air like a thin flood dragon, and then fell into his mouth. "Sorchi, you're also from my Confucian cultivator lineage." Su Zhuoyang's eyes lit up, and he blurted out a few words passed down from the inscription armor. Good, Xiaohua let out a sigh of relief. The Confucian cultivation method and elixir heart arts left behind by Huang. He also had some pronunciation of the inscription armor. Although it seemed incomplete, now it was the only language that could be used to communicate. "Who are you waiting for?" Xiaohua somewhat stuttered as he asked with the inscription armor. "I'm Su Zhuoyang." Su Zhuoyang's mouth was bitter. He racked his brains and brought out all the inscription armor he knew, slowly telling the origins of the 4 people. What? Hearing Su Zhuoyang's end, Xiaohua was even more confused. What hidden immortal continent? What pure land? What 1,000 demons sacred realm? How come I've never heard of any of them? You're not cultivators from the 5 islands abroad, then, where did you come from? Oh, which direction? When Xiaohua finished speaking, he faintly realized something and hurriedly asked. Old brother Chu and I are Confucian cultivators, so we naturally came from the east. The hidden immortal continent is in that place. Su Zhuoyang answered in bewilderment. Chapter 31:17. But all of a sudden, Xiaohua's mind went blank. There's a hidden immortal continent in the depths of Guihe Sea? How come I've never heard of it? Moreover, wasn't this Confucian cultivator killed by the Dao sect long ago? How could he still be hiding in this bullshit hidden immortal continent? What about her? Xiaohua pointed at Master Qingchun, who had already taken a pill and was healing herself. Master Qingchun is a Buddhist sect master, so she naturally came from the southern paradise. Although there are Buddhist sects in the other 3 continents, only the Buddhist sect in the southern paradise is authentic. Su Zhuoyang replied cautiously. How is this possible? Xiaohua almost blurted out. Nonsense, he had already been to the Buddhist sect's ruins. How could there be a Buddhist sect in Guihe Sea above Xiaoyu continent? How could there be a southern paradise like Xiaoyu continent in the depths of Guihe Sea? Why is it impossible? Su Zhuoyang understood and asked puzzledly. What about that guy? Xiaohua pointed at Master Leopard in the distance and said, Is he a beast cultivator? Beast cultivator? Su Zhuoyang finally figured out the meaning of Beast Cultivator in the inscription on the armor, and was even more puzzled than Xiaohua. He glanced at Master Leopard, who had an unkind expression, and said in a low voice, "This Master Leopard came from the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm in the north. It's a continent about the same size as the hidden immortal continent and the southern paradise. It's filled with immortal beasts and immortal birds that have turned into spirits. It's different from us Confucian cultivators and Buddhist sects." This Xiaohua was somewhat distressed. "What's all this about? It's a mess." Fellow immortal, seeing Xiaohua angry, Su Zhuoyang smiled and said, "Fellow immortal, aren't you an overseas cultivator? Fellow immortal, where did you get your Confucian cultivator inheritance? Who said I'm an overseas cultivator?" Xiaohua rolled his eyes and said coldly, "I'm a cultivator from Shi country." Speaking up to here, Xiaohua frowned slightly. Wasn't he a loose cultivator now? It's not impossible to call him an overseas cultivator. Oh, Shi country? Su Zhuoyang was stunned. Then he suddenly realized and clapped. Fellow immortal, Xiao is an overseas cultivator from Shi country. Fellow immortal, which Confucian cultivator's descendant are you? What are you talking about? Xiaohua waved his hand and asked indifferently, "Let me ask you, do you know about Dawn Rain Continent?" Dawn Rain Continent? Su Zhuoyang blinked his eyes and shook his head in confusion, indicating that he had never heard of it. "Where is this place? What about over there?" Xiaohua very calmly pointed at his feet, then pointed to the far west behind him and asked. "Fellow immortal Xiao," Su Zhuoyang said curiously, "this is the West Ocean. Further west is the depths of the Western Sea, where the origin qi is thin. No one will go any further." Although Xiaohua was somewhat prepared in his heart, he still sucked in a breath of cold air, and couldn't help but turn his head to the west. When right at this moment, an earthen yellow mountain appeared above Xiaohua's head, immediately trapping the area around Xiaohua. An incomparably powerful force smashed down on Xiaohua. "Fellow immortal leopard," Su Zhuoyang said in shock. Xiaohua suddenly turned his head, and a trace of surprise flashed through his eyes. He waved his hand. Wang, an even louder rumbling sound was heard, and the overturning sea seal rushed out of the space. Countless rays of light blossomed, and countless pearls hung down, turning into a seal even bigger than the magnificent mountain box. "Fellow immortal Xiao, please be merciful. This thing still has great uses." Su Zhuoyang couldn't help but cry out miserably. Xiaohua sneered and casually agreed. Boom! A loud sound was heard, and the earthen yellow mountain was smashed into pieces by Xiaohua's overturning sea seal. The light disappeared into the magnificent mountain box, and Xiaohua's overturning sea seal didn't chase after it. It turned into a small seal and fell into Xiaohua's hand. A fierce glint flashed across Panther Spiritual Master's withered, yellow eyes. However, his ugly face turned extremely yellow. He could not help but slap his hand, take out the sea beast's monster core he had obtained earlier, and swallow it in one gulp. "Thank you, fellow immortal Xiao." Su Zhuoyang saw that Xiaohua didn't take advantage of the victory to chase after him, so he hurriedly bowed and said, "This Su doesn't dare to delay fellow immortal's cultivation. This Su and the others will take our leave now." Wait, Su Zhuoyang wanted to leave, but Xiaohua didn't allow it. He said indifferently, "Tell this Xiao everything about the hidden immortal continent, Western Paradise, and the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm." This Su Zhuoyang smiled bitterly. He looked at the dark clouds in the sky that didn't dissipate, and said with a smile, "Fellow immortal, this Su has an important matter that can't be delayed. This Su will definitely pay a visit to apologize for disturbing fellow immortal today. If fellow immortal Xiao has any problems, this Su will definitely tell you everything at that time." "Oh," Xiaohua smiled. "Since you have an important matter, why did you come to disturb this Xiao?" This Su Zhuoyang was helpless. He thought for a while and said, "This Su and the others have an important matter. We need someone who is proficient in formations." "Oh, you saw this Xiao's formation?" Xiaohua was a bit confused. "How could you see it?" "Fellow immortal." Xiaohua was so curious that Su Zhuoyang couldn't resist. He smiled bitterly and said, "This lowly one doesn't have enough time. Moreover, This lowly one really doesn't understand what you're saying. Umph. Xiaohua saw that Su Zhuoyang was really anxious. Moreover, Su Zhuoyang had a very good impression of Confucian cultivators, so he didn't want to make things difficult for Su Zhuoyang. He pointed at his feet. Wuxia golden sword light flew out from the capital sky star formation and fell into Su Zhuoyang's hand. Go. Don't disturb this Xiao in the future. Su Zhuoyang saw this, and although he was very regretful, he was also happy. He put away the flying sword and bowed. This Su thanks fellow immortal Xiao at this time. Master Qing Chun, Chu Muhuan, and Leopard Spiritual Master were all adjusting their breathing. When they saw Su Zhuoyang leave, they stood up and didn't dare to stay here. They slightly bowed and were about to leave together. Wait. Just when the three of them were about to leave, Xiaohua suddenly realized something and hurriedly shouted. Su Zhuoyang's heart thumped, but he still had to stop. He smiled and said, "Fellow immortal Xiao, is there anything else?" This Xiaohua wants to ask this. Master of the Buddhist sect. Xiaohua pointed at Master Qing Chun and said, "Benefactor Xiao, please ask." Master Qing Chun was a little puzzled. Although there was some resentment in his heart, he still put his palms together and asked. Unexpectedly, he also spoke the inscription of Confucian cultivators. "Do you know about the heart destruction realm?" Xiaohua asked, not caring about Master Qing Chun's pronunciation at all. Master Qing Chun raised his eyebrows and nodded lightly. "Of course I know about the heart destruction realm. The so-called heart destruction realm is the nirvana realm. When the senior monks of the Buddhist sect cultivate to the depth, they can destroy all thoughts, all qi, and even life force. In this nirvana realm, they can find the true self. It's the supreme true path to achieve the Buddha fruit." How to get out of the heart destruction realm? Xiaohua asked again. "Get out," Master Qing Chun said with a smile. "Naturally, it's up to fate. The longer the process of finding the true self, the harder it is to get out. The longer you stay in the heart destruction realm, the more advantageous it is for the cultivation of the Buddhist sect. It can even achieve the Buddha fruit." Xiaohua was helpless. What Master Qing Chun said was the same as what the dead Hanju said. There was nothing to hide. "How do outsiders wake it up?" Xiaohua asked finally. "Outsiders? Why do outsiders have to wake it up?" Master Qing Chun smiled even more. "Why do ordinary senior monks have to wake it up when they can't even dream of it? Forget it." Xiaohua waved his hand. "Do you know which senior monk in the Pure Land has entered the heart destruction realm and then got out? Do you still need to ask? The first one to bear the brunt is my Buddha fruit." Master Qing Chun answered without hesitation. Before the Buddha fruit, his heart destruction realm lasted for 981,000 years. Only then did he realize his true self, get out of the 3,000 great worlds, achieve the supreme Buddha fruit, obtain the supreme golden body, and set foot in Lane Temple. "Where is Lane Temple?" Xiaohua asked. "Lane Temple is the holy land of the Buddhist sect." "How would I know?" Master Qing Chun looked pious. "What? You're a Buddhist sect cultivator. You don't know?" Xiaohua was surprised. Su Zhuoyang smiled at the side. "Fellow immortal Xiao, don't make things difficult for Master Qing Chun. It's true. I can assure you that even 99% of the Buddhist sect's disciples don't know the location of Lane Temple, let alone Master." "Forget it," Xiaohua sighed. However, he still didn't give up and asked, "Could it be that Master Qing Chun doesn't know any senior monks who have entered the heart destruction realm?" If Benefactor Xiao asks others this question, it's really not easy to answer. Master Qing Chun smiled and said, "Unfortunately, I do know such an eminent monk. Although he has only been in the heart extinguishing realm for half a year, he meets the requirements of fellow immortal. Moreover, because this senior monk has only entered the heart destruction realm for a short time, he has never mentioned it to others." "Who?" Not only Xiaohua asked, but Su Zhuoyang and the others were also curious. "It's not difficult for Benefactor Xiao to know." Master Qing Chun smiled and said, "That senior monk has never seen outsiders. If fellow immortal is fated to meet him, you can follow us to the West Sea. After we finish our business, we will personally accompany Benefactor to that place." Xiaohua sneered. He stared at Master Qing Chun and said indifferently, "Are you threatening me? Do you think I won't use the soul-searching technique?" Master Qing Chun's expression didn't change. He shook his head and said, "My Buddhist sect emphasizes karma. There are no more than 3 people who know that senior monk's heart destruction realm, and I am one of them. In this boundless West Sea, Benefactor Xiao actually met me and asked me about this matter. Benefactor Xiao, don't you think you should go with me? Moreover, I have been friends with Su Tanyua for a long time." The pronunciation of the ancient inscription was also taught by Su Tanyua. "I have always admired the awe-inspiring righteousness of Confucian cultivators. Since Benefactor Xiao is a Confucian cultivator, you naturally have righteousness. How can you use the soul-searching technique on me?" This Xiaohua's eyes flickered. He looked at Master Qing Chun and pondered. Chapter 31:18. Su Zhuoyang and the others were overjoyed. They naturally knew what Master Qing Chun meant. They had seen Xiaohua's magical power, and knew that he would be a great help. Moreover, Xiaohua was proficient in formations. If he could accompany them, they would be able to get the West Sea's treasure. As for Xiaohua, before he saw the 3 of them, he would not leave Lava Island. His purpose of seclusion was to reach the nascent soul stage, or even the separating spirit stage. However, after listening to the 3's introduction, it seemed that this was no longer the Kueha Sea, but the West Sea. Moreover, there was no Xiaoyu continent but 3 continents. In other words, Xiaohua's archenemy was gone. He didn't know anyone here. It didn't matter where he cultivated or not left Lava Island. Moreover, he now knew that the further east he went, the more abundant the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was. Further east was the hidden immortal continent, not the depths of the Kuai Sea as he had imagined. Instead, behind him was the daybreak continent in his mind, but now it was the depths of the West Sea, where the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was thin. All his cognition had been changed. Besides, he had always been worried about Jiang Luer. It had been 100 years, but Jiang Luer still hadn't woken up. Although Xiaohua would check on Jiang Luer every once in a while to see if he was alive, Xiaohua didn't dare to delay any longer. Although Master Qing Chun said that the Buddha Lord's heart had been destroyed for 81,000 years, that was only after he had succeeded in cultivating Buddhism. Xiaohua didn't dare to gamble with Jiang Luer's life. Now that he could leave and find an opportunity to wake him up, Xiaohua must seize it. Xiaohua was afraid that he couldn't wake Jiang Luer up from the state of heart destruction. Alas, there's still that damn nebula gold core. In these 10 years, there's no change in my realm. My magic power has also stopped growing, as if I've reached a bottleneck. And this bottleneck is a dead end. If I can't find a way to break out of this situation, I'm afraid I'll have to hide in this gold core stage for the rest of my life. Xiaohua immediately thought of his own cultivation. The progress of Confucian cultivation is also very strange. I clearly cultivate according to the cultivation method, but in the end, I always can't completely enter the chi refinement stage. I don't know why I can't refine that strand of core. My own core is also just a simple outline. He could only wait for this person's core of elixir to disappear before he could truly condense it. In such a situation, I can only find the answer by asking these cultivators who practice Confucian cultivation, right? If this Xiao continues to work behind closed doors like this, I will never be able to find the answer. All right. Thinking of this, Xiaohua clapped his hands and said, "This Xiao will go with you." However, this Xiao hopes that Venerable will inform this Xiao of the location first. Great. When Su Zhuoyang heard this, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He clapped his hands happily and said, "With fellow immortal Zhao's help, great things can be done." Su Swansea next to him, Taoist Leopard's complexion changed a bit. He glanced at everyone who was beaming with joy and reminded, "Although fellow immortal Xiao can participate, we have a bit more assurance. However, with his strength, I'm afraid we have to make things clear in advance. The things that this old man wants can't be lacking in any way." Fellow immortal Leopard is overthinking. When Su Zhuoyang heard Taoist Leopard's voice transmission, he couldn't help but laugh. He also transmitted his voice, that West Sea's lost treasures are innumerable. As long as we can break through the Great Array and enter, wouldn't we be able to get whatever we want? Moreover, there was originally Zen Master Kong's share. Now that it has changed to fellow immortal Xiao, there isn't any change in the previous allocation. Humph, this old man still feels that it's inappropriate. Taoist Leopard was still not at ease. We are only around the 4th grade of essence energy. This fellow immortal Xiao is probably almost at the 5th grade of essence energy. His origin is unknown. If at that time he has other thoughts, even our lives will be in danger. Oh, Su Zhuoyang smiled. If he has other thoughts, can we safely leave now? That's not the same. Taoist Leopard shook his head. Right now there are no West Sea's lost treasures. This old man knows that you humans. There are many cases of people dying for wealth and birds dying for food. When Su Zhuoyang heard this, he couldn't help but ponder slightly. On the other side, Master Qing Chen also pondered for a moment and said to Xiao Hua, Benefactor Xiao, it's not that this poor nun doesn't want to make things clear to you. It's just that that senior monk doesn't like to show off. There are very few people who know about this matter. If you go, not only will you not be able to see him, but you will also expose this poor nun, and things won't be good. Only this poor nun can accompany you and earnestly ask him first. Only then will there be hope. And that's for sure. Xiao Hua nodded. This is one of the conditions of this Xiao. This Xiao just wants to hear the name of this place in advance. Alright. Master Qing Chen knew that if she didn't say it, Xiao Hua definitely wouldn't go. She nodded and softly transmitted a few words. Xiao Hua's expression didn't change, as if he didn't hear anything. After Master Qing Chen finished speaking, he didn't hesitate and cupped his hands. Everyone, please wait a moment. This Xiao will go and pack up and immediately follow everyone. After saying that, his figure turned into the wind and rushed into Lava Island. Brother Su, seeing Xiao Hua's figure disappear, Chu Muhuan also whispered, this fellow immortal Zhao's learning is very complicated. In addition to the magical abilities of our Confucian cultivators, there are more Taoist rogue cultivators. Most of these rogue cultivators who are obsessed with Taoism are unscrupulous in their pursuit of power. If Brother Chu's doubts are normal, Su Zhuoyang said with a smile. However, in this Su's eyes, this fellow immortal Xiao is upright and upright. He's not the kind of rogue cultivator that Brother Chu said. Moreover, to tell you the truth, this Su has seen a few rogue cultivators before, and they are completely different from this fellow immortal Xiao. At least those rogue cultivators have such strength. I'm afraid that we can't escape unscathed. By the way, Master Qing Chen, you practice Buddhist magical abilities, especially heavenly hearing, which is very useful for identifying people. What do you think of this fellow immortal Xiao? This benefactor Xiao is very strange. Master Qing Chen frowned. This poor nun didn't detect any Buddhist cultivation on him, but this poor nun heard a familiar aura from him. This aura is unique to senior monks who practice Buddhist cultivation methods. Therefore, this poor nun just now invited him with confidence. Hiss. As soon as Master Qing Chen said this, the other 3 people gasped, especially Leopard Spiritual Master, who almost blurted out, how is that possible? This overseas cultivator not only has Confucian elemental energy, but also Taoist magic power. This is already rare and commendable. Now he is also hiding Buddhist telekinesis. Leopard Spiritual Master said a few times, but he didn't know what he wanted to say. Master Qing Chen, can you confirm? Su Zhuoyang bit his lip and looked at Master Qing Chen with bright eyes. This poor nun can't confirm. Master Qing Chen smiled bitterly. This poor nun first used Buddhist consciousness to probe, then used heavenly hearing, but I couldn't see his cultivation. I'm afraid he has a Buddhist treasure on him? Chu Muhuan reminded. But Master Qing Chen also bit her lip like Su Zhuoyang. This poor nun can't even detect his Confucian elemental energy. Could it be that his cultivation has surpassed the 5th level of elemental energy? Chu Muhuan was also shocked. This person is too mysterious. Leopard Spiritual Master shook his head. I think this trip is worrying. Haha, fellow immortal leopard can rest assured. In the end, Su Zhuoyang had to lay his cards on the table. Long before coming to the West Sea, this Su has already used the divine divination technique to divine. This trip is very auspicious. In other words, Chu Muhuan's eyes lit up, and he smiled. Although Zen Master Liao Kong didn't come, this fellow immortal Xiao is the array master sent by the heavens? This is why Brother Su wanted to recruit fellow immortal Xiao as soon as he saw him? That's right. Su Zhuoyang didn't show any pride on his face, but frowned and said, this Su thought so. But you didn't expect fellow immortal Xiao to be so difficult to invite. Master Qingchen was also in a good mood, and she smiled. He almost made us fight. Even Su Tanyua wanted to retreat at that time. Speaking of this, Master Qingchen changed the topic and asked, by the way, Su Tanyua, if this poor nun didn't say anything and couldn't invite fellow immortal Xiao, then would Su Tanyua's divine divination technique have a flaw? Haha, how is that possible? Chu Muhuan laughed and said, how can my divine divination technique have a flaw? Master's words have already been included in Brother Su's calculations. No. Su Zhuoyang waved his hand and said, Brother Chu, this is also where this Su has doubts. What do you mean? Chu Muhuan was a little puzzled. He was a Confucian cultivator, so naturally, he was very attracted to the divine divination technique. Leopard Spiritual Master said coldly, the West Sea lost treasure is passed down from ancient times, and it has been lost in the West Sea for many years. I don't know how many fellow immortals have come to look for it, but this old man is not stupid enough to think that I can definitely enter it. Su Swanzi's great fortune has a problem. Chu Muhuan naturally understood with a hint, and his heart also became alert. He glanced at the lava island where Xiaohua disappeared and asked curiously, could it be that this great fortune is because of fellow immortal Xiao? Brother Chu's thinking may be correct. Fellow immortal leopard's thinking is also correct. Su Zhuoyang smiled bitterly. This Su's divine divination technique is only at a small level. How can it be perfect? To be able to obtain a great fortune, this Su was originally ecstatic. But then he was puzzled. As fellow immortal leopard said, how can this West Sea treasure hunt be a great fortune? If it was a little thrilling, this Su would also believe it. However, looking at fellow immortal Xiao now, this Su somewhat believes it. But even so, it can't be a great fortune. Yes, the four of them knew their own cultivation, so how could there be a great fortune in the West Sea treasure hunt? Needless to say, if Su Zhuoyang's divine divination technique was not wrong, then this great fortune fell on fellow immortal Xiao, an overseas itinerant cultivator whose name they didn't even know. Chapter 31:19. Let's hope so. Although the four of them didn't speak, they all thought of the latter at the same time. Just as the four of them were having some inexplicable thoughts before leaving, Xiaohua came out from Lava Island again. Although Lava Island was barren, after all, he had cultivated for more than 100 years. It was the place where Xiaohua had stayed for the longest time since he started cultivating. Xiaohua actually felt somewhat reluctant to leave. Peaceful days of cultivation were hard to find. Xiaohua was very clear that after being discovered by Su Zhuoyang and the others, he had involuntarily fallen into the karma of the three continents. This karma would become more and more complicated. His experience would definitely change because of the three continents, and perhaps the three continents would also change because of his appearance. Of course, because of the existence of Jiang Luer. Even if the four of them didn't appear, Xiaohua would inevitably fall into the karma. It was just that the time and opportunity were different. Fellow immortal Xiao, have you packed up? Seeing Xiaohua fly out, Su Zhuoyang greeted him with a smile. It's just a big formation, nothing else. Xiaohua didn't hide anything. I've packed up the things to set up the formation. Speaking of this, Xiaohua's heart moved and he asked, fellow immortal Su, if possible, can you give me the map and signs of this place? Su Zhuoyang was stunned. He thought he had misheard and asked curiously, fellow immortal Xiao, this inscription. I'm not particularly familiar with it. Do you mean the sea map and signs of this place? Yes, that's right. Xiaohua rolled his eyes and nodded. Back then, I came here by accident, and I don't know the direction anymore. Moreover, if fellow immortal Su has a jade slip with records of the hidden immortal continent, let me have a look. Jade slip. Su Zhuoyang was even more confused. Su Xiangyue, behind him, Master Qingchen reminded. What fellow immortal Xiao is talking about is something recorded in ancient times. Nowadays, our 3 continents use jade eyes. Oh, I see. Su Zhuoyang looked at Xiaohua strangely. He really didn't understand. This fellow immortal Zhao's words were not only simple, but his knowledge was also simple. Xiaohua's heart thumped, and he secretly became alert. He didn't understand the situation of the 3 continents very well. If he said too much, he would definitely reveal something. Since that was the case, it was better not to say anything. Can fellow immortal Xiao give me your name? At this time, Su Zhuoyang still didn't know Xiaohua's name. Moreover, it seemed that the 5 of them hadn't officially announced their names to Xiaohua. Oh, this one is Xiaohua. Xiaohua only said his name and didn't mention anything else. Su Zhuoyang smiled bitterly, but he couldn't force Xiaohua. Then he gave his name. Master Pure Dust, Chu Muhuan, and Leopard Spiritual Master also came forward to meet him. Xiaohua was very interested in this Leopard Taoist master, and couldn't help but glance at him a few more times. This leopard Jinren was very similar to the beast cultivators of the Huan nation. However, after listening to Su Zhuoyang's introduction, Xiaohua realized that the two were completely different. This leopard Jinren should be a real leopard, and not a combination of the Huan nation's beast men. What was special was that this leopard spiritual master did not have a name at all. It was unknown if it was because he did not give himself a name, or if it was some rule of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. Xiaohua didn't dare to ask any more questions. Fellow immortal Xiao, do you have any mounts? Or flying on a sword? After the 5 people greeted each other, Master Pure Dust and Chu Muhuan released their mounts. Su Zhuoyang opened his mouth and the golden flying sword rushed out and landed at his feet. Xiaohua looked curiously at the rainbow Luan and cloud crane. He clapped his hands and took out a flying sword. He said with a smile, "This one is a rogue cultivator from overseas. How can I have any mounts? I can only fly on a sword." Fellow immortal Xiao? Su Zhuoyang saw that the quality of Xiaohua's flying sword was extraordinary, and its style was extremely simple. He was very surprised. "You're flying on a sword. Don't you need the flying sword from before?" "No need. This flying sword is enough." Xiaohua smiled and opened his mouth. The overwhelming righteous energy in his middle dantian rushed out and landed on the flying sword. Buzz, the flying sword made a sword hum and sword radiance shot out in all directions. It slowly vibrated as if it was about to spread its wings and fly out. "Wonderful." Su Zhuoyang's eyes lit up. He clapped his hands and said, This seems to be the long-lost sword technique of us Confucian cultivators, right?" "This one doesn't know." Xiaohua flatly refused to reveal. Since Xiaohua started practicing the core heart technique of Confucian cultivators, he no longer used the sword origin of sword cultivators. However, when Xiaohua was practicing true qi, he discovered that the overwhelming righteous energy had the same effect as the sword origin. It could also drive flying swords. Moreover, the flying swords in his space, whether they were transformed into swords or illusory swords, under the influence of this true qi, they could be used as if they were his arms. In particular, this Confucian cultivator's true qi was the same as the sword origin. It didn't consume any meridians. Usually, it was only refined in the middle dantian. When it was used, it could be used at will and produce the same effect as magical power. Now, listening to Su Zhuoyang's words, it should be some kind of elemental force. Su Zhuoyang saw that Xiaohua was so stingy. He asked one question after another and knew that it was not good to ask too much. They still had a few hours to travel together. Moreover, with this trip to the West Sea, they could communicate more in the future. Su Zhuoyang believed that with his own ability, it was not impossible to obtain Xiaohua's trust. Therefore, he didn't ask too much. Immediately after, Su Zhuoyang experienced Xiaohua's stinginess. Master Jingchen rode on the rainbow Luan, Chu Muhuan rode on the cloud crane, and Master Leopard rode on the demon wind. Under Su Zhuoyang's guidance, they flew to the southwest. Su Zhuoyang rode on the sword light and accompanied Xiaohua as they flew behind the 3 people. Su Zhuoyang originally wanted to ask Xiaohua more, but Xiaohua did not know anything and did not answer any of Su Zhuoyang's questions. This really made Su Zhuoyang scratch his ears and cheeks. He didn't know how to pry open Xiaohua's mouth. After flying for half an hour, Seeing that Su Zhuoyang was no longer interrogating, Xiaohua opened his mouth and asked Su Zhuoyang again for the jade eyes that recorded the languages of the 3 continents. Su Zhuoyang naturally had this kind of jade eyes, and he wasn't stingy. He took it out from his sleeve and gave it to Xiaohua. However, when Xiaohua scanned it with his divine sense, he couldn't see through it at all. He couldn't help but hesitate. He knew that Su Zhuoyang had seen through his Confucian cultivation base, but that Buddhist sect's master Qing Chun didn't see through his Buddhist cultivation base. That was because his Buddha's Sarira was now stored in his Naiwan palace, and there was a layer of innate divine restriction outside his Naiwan palace. If he didn't release his Buddhist sense or deliberately release his Buddha's Sarira, others wouldn't be able to see through his Buddhist cultivation base. Xiaohua's experience in the Xiaoyu continent had already told him that he couldn't expose everything. He had to hide as much as he could. Looking at the relationship between Master Qing Chun and Su Zhuoyang, it seemed that on these 3 continents, whether it was Confucian cultivators, Buddhist cultivators or Yao cultivators, they could all get along peacefully. However, if Xiaohua exposed his Buddhist cultivation, would it cause any bad consequences? This was not something that Xiaohua could know at this moment. Therefore, Xiaohua decided to hide his Buddhist cultivation base and not release his Buddhist sense. Fellow Taoist Su, Xiaohua said in a low voice, this jade slip. Oh, how do I check it with my jade eyes? Use my Confucian cultivation's divine sense technique, or clear eyes technique, both are possible. Su Zhuoyang was really observing Xiaohua's flying sword. When he heard Xiaohua's sudden question, he replied rather puzzledly, fellow Taoist Xiao, don't tell me you don't understand? Indeed. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. The art of elixir heart only recorded how to cultivate the elixir heart, and how to refine the awe-inspiring righteousness. There really wasn't any clear eyes technique. As for divine sense technique, Xiaohua had divine sense when he cultivated his middle dantian, but now his Naiwan palace was occupied by the Buddha's Sarira. How could he still have divine sense? This divine sense was born from the Buddha's Sarira in the past. That's right, it was my negligence. Su Zhuoyang suddenly realized. Fellow Taoist Xiao has a Taoist inheritance. Your divine sense technique conflicts with my Confucian cultivation's divine sense technique. This is troublesome. Unless fellow Taoist cultivates my Confucian eye technique, I'm afraid your jade eyes won't be able to see through it. Fellow Taoist Su, do you have this kind of cultivation technique? Xiaohua said without any trace of politeness. I can use spirit stones or other things to exchange with fellow Taoist. Spirit stones? Su Zhuoyang was puzzled. He didn't know whether he misheard or didn't understand Xiaohua's words. Xiaohua saw that he had made a mistake again. He thought for a moment and carefully took out a piece of low-grade spirit stone from his space. He said with a smile, this is it. Oh, fellow Taoist is talking about spirit stones. Su Zhuoyang understood and shook his head. I don't lack spirit stones. Moreover, I don't have this kind of cultivation technique. And then I'll go and ask Chu Muhuan. Xiaohua urged his flying sword and suddenly flew past Su Zhuoyang and arrived in front of Chu Muhuan. Hiss, Su Zhuoyang had been observing Xiaohua's imperial sword technique all along. Now that he saw Xiaohua leave as soon as he said so, without any accumulation of power, and his speed was much faster than his own, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Su Zhuoyang wasn't the only one who was surprised. Chu Muhuan's Yunhe was also startled by Xiaohua's sudden approach. He immediately stretched his neck and let out a long cry. Yunhe's vigilance attracted Chu Muhuan's attention. He also didn't expect Xiaohua to fly over without him noticing. If Xiaohua really had ulterior motives, this sneak attack would definitely be enough to make Chu Muhuan suffer. What was even more mysterious and what made Chu Muhuan even more surprised was that Xiaohua's figure flashed and calmly flew out from the flying sword. He didn't wait for Yunhe to spread his wings and speed up. He flew to Chu Muhuan's side like a gust of wind and landed on Yunhe's back. Yunhe was abnormally frightened. He used all his strength to flap his wings as if he was startled. His whole body trembled as if he was afraid and wanted to expel Xiaohua from his back. However, no matter how Yunhe struggled, Xiaohua stood steadily and didn't move in the slightest. Chu Muhuan saw this and immediately understood. It wasn't that Yunhe was afraid of Xiaohua, but that Xiaohua's actions were too strange and startled Yunhe. He hurriedly comforted Yunhe while waving his rattan staff. A cyan light flashed and wrapped both him and Xiaohua. This cyan light was really effective. Yunhe gradually returned to normal and spread his wings to fly with the rainbow luan. Chapter 31:20. Fellow Immortal Xiao. Chu Muhuan wanted to berate Xiaohua, but when he thought of Xiaohua's terrifying methods, he restrained himself and smiled apologetically. May I know why fellow Immortal Xiao suddenly came to this Chu's place? Seeing Chu Muhuan's slightly changed expression, Xiaohua actually regretted his impulsiveness. He thought that this flying beast's mount was similar to a flying boat. How could he have known that his arrival would actually frighten Yunhe so much? Therefore, Xiaohua cupped his hands without hiding anything and said, Fellow Immortal Chu, it's all this Xiao's fault. This Xiao. Hee, I really didn't expect your mount to have such a big reaction. Xiaohua's expression was very sincere without any pretense. His respect for Chu Muhuan was also very obvious. This made Chu Muhuan somewhat embarrassed and he hurriedly returned the greeting. It's fine, it's fine. Fellow Immortal Xiao has lived overseas for a long time. I'm afraid you're somewhat indifferent to some taboos. Hee, Xiaohua scratched his head and didn't dare to say more. Chu Muhuan smiled and asked, Fellow Immortal Xiao, for you to come in such a hurry, is there something urgent? There's nothing urgent, Xiaohua said somewhat awkwardly. It's just that this Xiao doesn't understand the language of the 3 continents. I just obtained a jade eye from fellow Immortal Su, but this jade eye can only be seen with divine sense or eye clearing technique. Unfortunately, fellow Immortal Xiao's Taoist divine sense technique conflicts with my Confucian divine sense technique. Once Xiaohua said this, Chu Muhuan immediately understood. He looked at Su Zhuoyang who was standing on a flying sword and said with a smile, Moreover, fellow Immortal Xiao doesn't cultivate eye clearing technique. That's right. Xiaohua nodded. Therefore this Xiao can't even see through this jade eye. Not only that, Chu Muhuan said with a smile. Not only this jade eye can't see through it, all the jade eyes in my hidden immortal continent, even the Buddhist archives in Western Paradise and the beast skins in Thousand Devil Sacred Realm can't see through it. That's right. Xiaohua rubbed his hands, looking very embarrassed. Therefore this Xiao came here to see if fellow Immortal Chu has any shallow eye clearing technique. This Xiao will give something to Immortal Chu in exchange. This Chu Muhuan's face showed that he was in a difficult position. He understood what Xiaohua meant from his first sentence. It wasn't that he didn't have any eye-clearing techniques, but this eye-clearing technique was passed down in the Jing province's Chu clan. How could he casually exchange it with others? However, looking at Xiaohua's delicate and pretty face, as well as his sincere expression and clear gaze, which was very similar to some of his juniors, he couldn't bear to refuse. If fellow Immortal Chu has any difficulties, please don't hesitate. Forget it then. A trace of regret flashed in Xiaohua's eyes. He knew that he could not do this, so he did not want to force the other party. Fellow Taoist Xiao Chu Muhuan's mind raced. He raised his hand and said, Please wait a moment. Oh. Xiaohua raised an eyebrow in surprise. Chu Immortal friend, alas, fellow Immortal Xiao doesn't know. Chu Muhuan sighed. Speaking of divine sense, it's very common in the hidden immortal continent. Just like the Taoist spiritual sense technique, there were also some superficial records that were carved on bamboo slips. Although this Chu doesn't have it today, fellow Taoist Xiao only needs to go to the continent, and you can find it at any trading place. You can buy it with some spirit stones. However, eye-clearing techniques are passed down in my Confucian family. You can't find it at any trading place. Not necessarily, right? Xiaohua didn't think so. He had seen a lot of such techniques on the Xiaoyu continent. As long as he had spirit stones, he might be able to find it. However, he didn't open his mouth and carefully asked, Does fellow Taoist Chu have any good ideas? Of course, fellow Taoist Xiao doesn't need to consider divine sense. Chu Muhuan was very satisfied with Xiaohua's attitude and said with a smile, You can only start with eye-clearing techniques. Yes, this is where this Xiao is in a difficult position. Xiao Hua spread his hands and quietly looked at Chu Muhuan. He knew that Chu Muhuan definitely had something to say. Sure enough, Chu Muhuan said with a smile, "Since this Chu can meet fellow Taoist Xiao, and fellow Taoist Xiao is from my Confucian family, this is definitely fate. This Chu wants to make friends with fellow Taoist Xiao. Thank you fellow Taoist Chu." Xiao Hua was very happy when he heard this and hurriedly said, "I don't know if fellow Taoist Chu needs any magic tools or spirit herbs?" Who would have thought that when Chu Muhuan heard this, he hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Fellow Taoist Xiao misunderstands. This Chu doesn't lack anything right now. I don't need anything from fellow Taoist Xiao." "Oh." Xiao Hua was stunned and asked curiously, "Then fellow Taoist Chu's meaning is?" "It's like this." Chu Muhuan explained, "Fellow Taoist Xiao has been overseas for a long time. Now that you've returned to the hidden immortal continent, I'm afraid you don't have a place to stay. Although my Jing province's Chu clan isn't a big clan and can't be compared to the Tianji sect, it's just a slightly famous clan in Jing province. If fellow Taoist Xiao doesn't mind, why don't you come to my Chu clan as a guest? What do you think?" "Guests of the curtains? What does that mean?" "I'm afraid it's similar to an elder's position." Xiao Hua was stunned and his heart was somewhat bewildered. However, after thinking for a moment, he slightly shook his head and said, "This Xiao has liked freedom since childhood, and it's precisely because of this freedom that I paid a huge price. Now this Xiao is overseas because of this. Therefore, fellow Taoist Chu's suggestion, this Xiao can't agree." When Chu Muhuan heard this, although there was some doubt in his eyes, it was clearly outside of his expectations. Chu Muhuan's gaze swept over the distant Suzhuoliang. After thinking for a moment, he smiled and said, "How about this, fellow Taoist Xiao? This Chu has a clear sight technique that my Chu clan's low-level disciples cultivate. It's the most basic technique. Although it's not easy to find in the hidden immortal continent, it's not considered rare in my Chu clan. If you really need it, this Chu can draw it with inscriptions. What do you think?" This when Xiao Hua heard Chu Muhuan say Chu clan and hidden immortal continent is not easy to find, he naturally understood Chu Muhuan's intentions. At this moment, he was no longer the ignorant brat from before. He understood that there was no such thing as a free spirit pill in this world. He thought for a moment and straightforwardly said, "Fellow Taoist Chu, this brat knows that this clear sight technique is very rare. It's a clan's secret technique. Fellow Taoist Xiao took this out with the intention of helping this brat. This brat is very grateful for this kind intention, but this brat can't make things difficult for fellow Taoist Chu. How about this? Since fellow Taoist Chu doesn't need anything in exchange, then if there's anything fellow Taoist Chu wants this brat to do, feel free to say it. As long as it's not too difficult, this brat will agree." And fellow Taoist Xiao's words make this Chu very happy. A gentleman doesn't eat handouts. This is how it should be. Chu Muhuan became even more happy. Since fellow Taoist Xiao is so frank, this Chu won't hide it from fellow Taoist. My Jing province's Chu clan has a difficult matter that requires assistance. Of course. Seeing Xiao Hua slightly wrinkle his brows, Chu Muhuan hurriedly said, "This matter requires a lot of assistance. My Chu clan will invite experts to participate at an appropriate time. This Chu naturally has to contribute to the clan. Fellow Taoist Zhao's cultivation is so deep, it's precisely the assistance my Chu clan needs. Of course, since fellow Taoist Xiao is helping my Chu clan will also repay you. This clear sight technique will be paid by my Chu clan in advance. How about it? Can you tell this Xiao what the matter is now?" Xiao Hua sighed in his heart and asked in a low voice. "Naturally, I can't tell fellow Taoist right now," Chu Muhuan said with a smile. "However, this Chu can guarantee, as long as fellow Taoist Xiao participates, my Chu clan will definitely repay you handsomely. Moreover, if fellow Taoist Xiao doesn't want to receive too much, then there's no need to put in too much effort. So that's how it is." When Xiao Hua heard this, he immediately understood. It seemed that Jing province's Chu clan's matter had a great impact and needed a lot of manpower. This Chu Muhuan must have invited a few powerful fellow Taoists. Perhaps he had taken a fancy to Xiao Hua's strength. If he could invite Xiao Hua, he would be able to explain it to his clan. As for whether Xiaohua would contribute in the process, it wasn't something he could control. Even if Xiaohua were to pass off as a fish-eyes pearl, it should be fine. All right. Xiaohua nodded and said, "This Xiao agrees." "Good, fellow Taoist Xiao is straightforward. Let's make an oath." When Chu Muhuan heard this, his face lit up and he raised his palm. "Good." Xiaohua didn't hesitate and raised his palm to Chu Muhuan's right palm. In the distance, although Su Zhuoyang didn't deliberately look over, he still paid attention. When he saw the two of them clapping their palms, he couldn't help but feel regret in his heart. He knew that Xiaohua must have made some kind of deal with Chu Muhuan. However, he also had no other choice. After all, his thousand-eyed pupils was a secret technique within the sect. It couldn't be easily taught to non-sect disciples. Although he had a wide range of connections, he really didn't have a similar technique in his bag. Alas, what can I do? Su Zhuoyang understood that Xiaohua's cultivation was unfathomable. Moreover, his character seemed to be extremely good. He was a person who was hard to come by. However, Su Zhuoyang's regret only lasted for a moment. He knew that the West Sea lost treasure had already connected Xiaohua with him and the others. As long as he succeeded this time, he would have plenty of opportunities to contact Xiaohua in the future. With the Fectisect's strength, he could definitely establish a good relationship with Xiaohua. On the cloud crane, Chu Muhuan handed over a tiger talisman to Xiaohua and said, "This is the command talisman of my Jing province's Chu clan. Fellow Taoist Xiao, please accept it. After 3 years. Oh, of course, if fellow Taoist Xiao doesn't have any other matters. You can follow this Chu to Jing province once the matter in the West Sea is settled. This Xiao will take the command talisman first." Xiaohua took it with a smile. "After this matter, this Xiao has an appointment with Master Jingchen. Of course, this Chu forgot about this matter." Chu Muhuan slapped his forehead. He really neglected the main reason why Xiaohua could go to the West Sea lost treasure. Only after Xiaohua took the command talisman did Chu Muhuan feel relieved. He smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, please wait a moment. There aren't many of these chants. However, if you want to change them into armor inscriptions, it will be a bit troublesome." "Thank you for your trouble, fellow Taoist Chu," Xiaohua said with a slight smile. Chapter 31-21. Immediately, Chu Muhuan sat down cross-legged and took out a bag-like object from his sleeve. He patted his hand and took out the 4 treasures of the study, and even a bamboo scroll. This Xiaohua was stunned. Of course, he couldn't use divine sense, so Chu Muhuan had to carve inscriptions on the bamboo scroll. How else could he read it? The cloud crane flew very steadily, and Chu Muhuan's brush flew like it was flying. One by one, the inscriptions were written on the bamboo scroll, like dragons flying and phoenixes dancing, like golden hooks and silver strokes. It took Chu Muhuan less than a meal to finish writing it smoothly. Xiaohua really prostrated himself in admiration. That kind of admiration came from the bottom of his heart. "Chu immortal friend," Xiaohua clapped his hands and praised. "Good writing skills, this Xiao is convinced." "Hee, this is nothing." Chu Muhuan laughed. "My Confucian path of cultivation has the 6 arts of etiquette, music, archery, imperial, calligraphy, and mathematics as the foundation. If your writing skills aren't up to standard, how can you refine essence into qi?" Boom! Chu Muhuan's simple sentence immediately woke Xiaohua up like a bolt of lightning. That's right, Xiaohua only treated the core heart arts as a Tao sect cultivation method to cultivate. He didn't know that the core heart arts of Confucianism and Tao sect cultivation methods were fundamentally different. Xiaohua only wanted to refine the art of core, but if he didn't cultivate the 6 basic arts, how could he truly become a Confucian cultivator? "Many thanks, Chu immortal friend." Xiaohua bowed to Chu Muhuan with heartfelt admiration. Oh, Chu Muhuan was caught unprepared. He thought Xiaohua was thanking him for the clear spirit eyes cultivation method, so he hastily got up and put away the 4 treasures of the study. He said, "Xiao immortal friend doesn't need to be so polite. This cultivation method is the most basic. You can only see the records in the jade eyes. It's far from seeing through illusions, seeing through fabrications, or even understanding 1,000 miles. Hee, that's right. If Xiao immortal friend is interested in the clear spirit eyes, you can ask my Chu family's patriarch for it in the future. Xiao Hua didn't point it out. He smiled and took the bamboo scroll from Chu Muhuan's hand. He immediately sat down cross-legged and said, "We'll talk about this later. This Xiao is going to study the secret technique. From now on, I'll leave everything to Dao friend Chu." "Oh, okay." Xiao Hua was so excited that he actually casually called Chu Muhuan fellow Daoist. Fortunately, the two of them were using the inscriptions on their armor to communicate, so Chu Muhuan might not be able to understand. He just casually responded, and urged the cloud crane to fly into the distance. Seeing Xiao Hua actually sit down on the cloud crane, the distant Su Zhuoyang sighed in his heart, knowing that he had already lost an excellent opportunity. The night gradually faded, and dawn was breaking in the east. The bright light behind them quickly streaked across the sky and caught up with their hurried backs. However, looking at Su Zhuoyang's slightly anxious look, it was obvious that they were already a little too late. Unfortunately, fortune did not come in pairs and misfortune did not come singly. The West Sea was filled with sea beasts. Su Zhuoyang and the others had not encountered any powerful sea beasts, even after flying for half a night. It was truly a stroke of luck. Now the five of them had just spotted an island that was about 10 acres in size in the distance. Before they could even get close, a cold divine sense swept over them. Hiss! Su Zhuoyang sensed the divine will and immediately knew that the sea beasts on this island had powerful cultivations. He couldn't help but gasp. Almost without thinking, he waved his hand and shouted, "Let's go around this place. Don't disturb it." As he spoke, the sword light under Su Zhuoyang's feet turned, and he hurriedly tried to go around the island from another direction. Roar! A mournful roar rang out. In the center of the island, a splendor like a splash of water appeared. Then, a faint cloud appeared, and a strange-looking sea beast that was more than 20 feet tall flew into the sky on a demonic cloud, blocking Su Zhuoyang and the others' path. "This is bad," Leopard Spiritual Master cried out involuntarily behind Su Zhuoyang. "This sea beast's cultivation is probably at the 4th or even 5th level of origin power. If we get entangled with it, even if we can defeat it, it will take a lot of time. It's going to be daybreak soon." Dodge. Su Zhuoyang didn't say anything else. He pressed down on the sword light, turned around, and actually tried to fly away from another direction. The Rainbow Wan and Cloud Crane obviously could also sense the power of this sea beast. They cried out in unison and flapped their wings even harder, hoping that they could escape from this sea beast's obstruction. Huff! What sounded like a long moan was heard. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth within several miles of the island started to vibrate. Not only were the Rainbow Wan and Cloud Crane frightened, their bodies trembled slightly and their flight slowed down significantly. Even Su Zhuoyang and Leopard Spiritual Master's bodies were faintly flickering, and their flight speed had obviously decreased. Rustle! A sound like sand was heard. The sea beast's body moved strangely in midair, flashing past afterimages. Following the vibrations of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, it appeared in front of Su Zhuoyang like a ripple. Huff! "This road was opened by me. This island was planted by me. If you want to pass through, leave a toll." The sea beast's voice was hoarse, and it wasn't clear at all. Xiao Hua was completely focused on the bamboo scroll in his hand. When he heard this, he only raised his head to look at it for a moment, then lowered it again. The sea beast seemed to be pentagonal, but it also seemed to be humanoid. A tumor several feet in size was erected on top of its seemingly soft body, and a four-cornered hole was expanding and contracting from time to time. The sound came from that hole. As for the surroundings of the hole, there were several tentacles about the thickness of a thumb. Above the tentacles, there were small balls of black and white. These black and white balls rotated left and right, just like a human's eyes. This fellow immortal. When Su Zhuoyang saw the sea beast blocking his path, and saw how ferocious the sea beast was, he knew that he was in trouble. He smiled and said, "I don't know what fellow immortal wants to leave a toll. If I have it in my pocket, I will definitely give it to fellow immortal." Huff! Huff! The sea beast's entire body was trembling, and then some saliva flowed out from the hole in its body. Several of its tentacles seemed to be trembling, causing the several black and white balls to jump around. It seemed to be extremely excited. Its body, which was several feet in size, flapped slightly, and it actually pointed at Master Qing Chun. When Su Zhuoyang saw this, he immediately understood. This sea beast wasn't after money, but for sex. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Evil creature. Before Su Zhuoyang could speak again, Master Qing Chun shook her hand, and the space-splitting cauldron immediately flew out. She made a Dharma seal, and waved her hand quickly. Boom! The entire space-splitting cauldron was like a volcanic eruption. A scarlet flame rushed out from it and fiercely rushed toward the sea beast. Previously, when Master Qing Chun faced Leopard Master and Xiaohua, she had already used the space-splitting cauldron twice. During those 2 times, she didn't make a Dharma seal. Now, when she heard the sea beast's words, she immediately urged her mind power to make a Dharma seal. Of course, it was because the sea beast was too powerful. On the other hand, it was obvious that Master Qing Chun was very angry. Wherever the scarlet flame passed, there was a lot of white gas. At the edge of the white gas, there were faint black strands. Obviously, the heat of the flame was extremely high. Puff! The sea beast's body moved quickly, and it suddenly waved its tentacles. A clear water light appeared out of thin air, blocking in front of the flame pillar. However, as soon as the water light touched the flame, it immediately made a sizzling sound, and also turned into white gas. Seeing that Master Qing Chun had made her move, Su Zhuoyang couldn't care less. He made a Dharma seal with his hand, and the flying sword under his feet rushed forward. The sword split into 4 and attacked the 4 corners of the sea beast. Immediately after, other than Xiaohua, Leopard Master and Chu Muhuan also took out their own Dharma treasures. The rattan staff turned into a dark green rattan. It flashed brilliantly from bottom to top, like a fishing net that was about to trap the sea beast. From the mountain-containing box, a mountain-like yellow color flew out, and with a buzzing sound, it fell down like a thunderclap roar. The sea beast was caught off guard. The water that it spat out had just been destroyed by the fire pillar, and the fire had already burned the lower half of the sea beast. Another sizzling sound of frying was heard, and a hole several feet in size appeared in the fire. Green liquid was still dripping from the hole, and an extremely unpleasant smell was emitted from the liquid. However, as the liquid dripped out, the flame of the cracked void cauldron was gradually extinguished. However, before the flames of the space-splitting cauldron could be extinguished, Su Zhuoyang's 4 streaks of sword light flashed past like lightning. The tentacles, which were several feet long, were immediately chopped off like tofu. The smooth wounds on the tentacles were also covered with green liquid. Not only that, the rattan wrapped around the sea beast, but before it could retract, Leopard Master's mountain came crashing down. With a boom, the sea beast was pressed down from the sky and smashed deeply into the island. The ground seemed to have sunk more than 3 feet. Seeing that his flying sword had succeeded, Su Zhuoyang frowned. He was in disbelief. Before he could use his 1,000 eyes to see what was going on, another unforeseen event occurred. Swoosh! A green brilliance pierced through the dark clouds like the sun. In an instant, it pierced through the mountain formed by the magnificent mountain box. Pung! With a loud sound, the yellow congealed mountain immediately exploded into pieces. Chu Muhuan did not have time to retract his rattan in time. From the connection point on the ground, there were crisp cracking sounds as it broke inch by inch. Chu Muhuan's expression changed greatly. He hurriedly shook his hand, and the rattan broke in the middle. Those that were close to Chu Muhuan quickly retracted, and the broken part had already turned into green spots before it fell from the sky. 3 feet deep in the ground, there was a violent vibration. A glaring brilliance flashed, and Su Zhuoyang could not help but close his 1,000 eyes that he had just used. Whoosh! When Su Zhuoyang opened his eyes again, a starfish that was a few feet in size was waving its tentacles. Its entire body was flashing with green light as it pounced toward Master Qing Chun. The starfish was extremely fast, and in an instant, it was in front of Master Qing Chun. The 5 waving tentacles emitted strange water ripples that covered Master Qing Chun's entire body. On the starfish's abdomen, the holes at the 4 corners trembled slightly, as if it was laughing wretchedly. Chapter 31-22. You're courting death. Master Qing Chun's whole body was filled with coldness. and a shuddering feeling arose from the bottom of her heart. It was as if this gaze had directly penetrated her monk robe. Almost without hesitation, Master Qing Chun hit the Buddha's seal that she had just formed on the space-splitting cauldron. A wisp of fire that was several times purer than before, but also several times smaller, rushed out like a red snake. Puff! The starfish's abdomen also sent out a wisp of cold water, which touched the fire. With a muffled sound, the fire was extinguished instantly. Master Qing Chun turned pale with fright. Her whole body was filled with Buddha's light, and she wanted to use other Buddhist magic. However, the starfish was too fast. Just as the Buddha's light was produced, the starfish's 5 tentacles had already covered Master Qing Chun's body. Although Master Qing Chun was sitting on the rainbow lawn, the tentacles were like a big hand holding Master Qing Chun, and the Buddha's light quickly melted in the starfish's green light. The starfish grabbed Master Qing Chun and immediately flew back. It seemed that this fellow's target was Master Qing Chun. Su Zhuoyang was shocked. While urging his flying sword, he hurriedly looked at Xiaohua, who had not moved just now on the cloud crane. However, Su Zhuoyang's gaze was everywhere, and the cloud crane's back was empty. He did not see Xiaohua's figure. Evil creature. Not far away from Su Zhuoyang, Xiaohua had appeared in front of the starfish at some point. His voice sounded coldly. I didn't want to make things difficult for you, but you actually learned from other bandits who occupied a mountain and robbed others. You even learned to rape others. I really can't stand it. I'll give you one more chance. Quickly put the sorcerer down, and I'll spare your life on account of your difficult cultivation. Su Zhuoyang smiled bitterly, but he did not take it seriously in his heart. Xiaohua's words were all inscriptions. Even if the starfish had cultivated into a spirit, how could it understand them? Sure enough, the starfish seemed to know how powerful Xiaohua was. His whole body flashed again, almost like a shadow flashing, making everyone unable to see which one was the real starfish. Crack, crack, crack. Just when Su Zhuoyang's 1,000-eyed pupils couldn't distinguish clearly, Xiaohua waved his hand, and several hundred bolts of lightning fell from the sky, covering an area of 3,000 feet. All the phantoms were destroyed by this heavenly lightning without exception. The true form of the starfish was revealed. Oh no! Unfortunately, when Su Zhuoyang saw the starfish clearly, the joy he had just felt completely disappeared. Because in the middle of the purple lightning, the starfish's body also emitted green lightning, blocking Xiaohua's lightning. This starfish also had the lightning attribute. Ha ha ha! Xiaohua laughed. He glanced at the starfish's tentacles, and at Master Qing Chun, whose Buddhist light was already very dim, and knew that he couldn't delay any longer. With a clap of his hand, the spirit execution sword gourd appeared, and he laughed loudly. Treasure, please show yourself. Whoosh! With a loud sound, 2 green and red spirit execution sword gourd flew out. That faint gray color, which seemed to have a nose and eyes, emerged from the sword gourd. The refined spirit execution sword gourd was indeed powerful. As soon as the sword light appeared, the starfish immediately stopped moving in midair. Haste! Xiaohua chanted an incantation. The sword light rushed into the starfish's lightning. With a muffled puff, a stream of aqua blue pus rushed out. The starfish immediately slid down from Master Qing Chun's almost completely disappeared Buddha's light like a tattered rag, falling onto the island. Xiaohua released the spirit execution sword gourd, and then killed the starfish. In just a few breaths' time, Su Zhuoyang and the others almost didn't see clearly what was going on with the spirit execution sword gourd. The starfish had already been killed, and they naturally couldn't help but exclaim in their hearts. They looked at each other, and their eyes flashed with shock and joy. As for Chu Muhuan, he was almost ecstatic. Thank you, Xiao Tanyu. Master Qing Chun seemed to be still in shock, and his face flashed with slight panic. He put his palms together and flew in front of Xiaohua, bowing and thanking him. The previous benefactor had been replaced with Tanyu. You're welcome. Xiaohua put away the sword gourd and waved his hand. You and I are on the same side. I'm still waiting for that matter after this. Yes, this poor nun understands. Master Qing Chun took a deep breath and said, just for Tanyu's life-saving grace today. Even if this poor nun has to use up her glib tongue, I will ask Zen Master to take action. Then this Xiao thanks you in advance, Xiao Hua said with a smile, and his gaze fell on his left hand again. He did not put away the bamboo slip in his left hand at all. His magic power is boundless. This was Master Qing Chen's evaluation of Xiao Hua at this time. At this moment, her heart was in a mess. These sea beasts were not ordinary. Most of them were lustful creatures. She was a bhikkhuni. If she were to fall into the hands of these sea beasts, death would be the best outcome. She did not dare to imagine anything else. At this time, she really regretted it. She really should not have gone deep into this unpredictable West Sea for some greed. Fortunately, Xiao Tanyu is an expert. He is really my Buddhist sect's boundless protector. Suddenly, Master Qing Chen had some understanding. It seemed that Xiao Hua should have practiced the Buddhist sect's protector cultivation method. Although there was no Buddhist consciousness and no Saraira, it made her feel close to him. However, looking at Xiao Hua's indifferent look, she also knew that Xiao Hua would not answer directly. Anyway, there was still a chance in the future. Master Qing Chen sighed, stepped on a light cloud, and landed on the back of the colorful Yuan, who was also in a daze, to rest for a while. Thank you, Su Zhuoyang wanted to say again, but Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, don't mention it. Hurry up. We have wasted a lot of time again. If we delay any longer, I'm afraid we will be late. Yes, Su Zhuoyang nodded, but his eyes fell on the sea star corpse on the island, and he reminded, fellow immortal Xiao, this sea beast's monster core can be used to refine medicine and refine qi, and there are many things on the corpse, can also be used to refine imperial weapons, magical weapons, and so on. Oh, is that so? Xiao Hua's eyes left the bamboo slips, glanced at the sea beast corpse, and said with a smile, then I'll have to trouble you, fellow immortal Su. I want the monster core. As for the rest, please make the decision and distribute it to everyone, okay? Haha, okay. Seeing that Xiao Hua was so generous, Su Zhuoyang was overjoyed. This sea star was so powerful, and it was of the thunder attribute. Its physical body must be precious. Compared with it, the monster core was not that obvious. In Su Zhuoyang's eyes, Xiao Hua gave up the precious body, but wanted the monster core. He was just looking for an excuse to save everyone's face. With such a shrewd overseas cultivator accompanying them to the West Sea lost treasure, how could Su Zhuoyang not be at ease? What Su Zhuoyang thought, Chu Muhuan, Master Qing Chen, and Leopard Spiritual Master also understood. Some of their previous worries had long disappeared. Fellow immortals. Su Zhuoyang landed next to the sea star corpse, took out the monster core and gave it to Xiao Hua. When Xiao Hua casually took it and put it away, he said, after all, it will take time to divide the corpse. We'd better hurry. When we arrive at that place, I'll find some free time to distribute this thing, okay? It's okay, we'll listen to Su Tanyue's instructions. Master Qing Chen nodded. This thing originally belonged to Xiao Tanyue. Now it's distributed to us, we can do it at any time. Okay, seeing that the others also nodded, Su Zhuoyang put away the sea star corpse, urged the sword light, and flew straight across the island toward the northwest. Xiao Hua also got on the cloud crane, still looking down at the bamboo slips, as if nothing had happened. Alas, seeing that Xiao Hua was so calm, Chu Muhuan sighed in his heart. He understood that he could no longer treat Xiao Hua as an ordinary overseas cultivator. Fellow immortal Chu, at this moment, Xiao Hua put away the bamboo slips and said with a smile, I have something to ask. Fellow immortal Xiao, please ask. Chu Muhuan's face immediately piled up with a smile and replied, fellow immortal Su just said that this monster core can be used to make medicine. What's going on? Xiao Hua stretched out his hand and took out the bowl-sized monster core, which emitted a water-blue brilliance from the space. Seeing this monster core, Chu Muhuan was immediately frightened and hurriedly shouted, fellow immortal Xiao, it's not easy to take this thing out here. You'd better put it away quickly. If other sea beasts see it, thousands of sea beasts will come to seek revenge. Even if fellow immortal has 3 heads and 6 arms, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to escape. Seeing Chu Muhuan's reaction, Xiao Hua didn't dare to neglect and hurriedly put it away. Then he looked at Chu Muhuan and quietly waited for his explanation. Fellow immortal Xiao, You have Taoist cultivation. Presumably, you also know that Taoist cultivation steals the essence of heaven and earth for their own use. They blindly take from heaven and earth without asking for anything in return. Speaking up to here, Chu Muhuan seemed to be afraid that Xiao Hua would be displeased and hurriedly explained. Of course, as a cultivation path that is on par with our Confucian cultivation and Buddhist cultivation, although it has declined after our Confucian cultivation and Buddhist cultivation joined hands to exterminate it, its alchemy techniques are indeed somewhat unique. However, alchemy techniques also inherit the Taoist cultivation method. They also take a shortcut by seizing the essence of heaven and earth and refining it into medicinal pills. They use the medicinal effects of the pills to improve the cultivation of Taoist cultivators. Chu Muhuan thought for a moment and said, but this unique alchemy technique also provides us Confucian cultivators with a new path to take as a reference. Although we Confucian cultivators don't advocate using medicinal pills and other things to increase the speed of cultivation, when one's cultivation is unable to advance even an inch, this medicinal pill can also allow us to walk out of a situation where we are at the end of our rope and have no way out. Of course, this is a chance to live, but the road is short. It's far from being as far as relying solely on tempering the righteous energy in the chest. But on the other hand, the road of cultivation is long and endless. We search from top to bottom. And if we can take one more step, it's one more step. Who doesn't want to take a few more steps? Therefore, we Confucian cultivators now also have some alchemy techniques. Although they are not as exquisite as the Taoist alchemy techniques. Hearing this, Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He probed. When was the Taoist exterminated by us Confucian cultivators and Buddhist cultivation? To what extent has it declined now? In fact, it might not be appropriate for Xiaohua to say these words here. After leaving the Western Ocean, he could inquire as much as he wanted. However, Xiaohua was very curious. The Dan-Rain continent claimed to have exterminated the Buddhist and Confucian cultivators, and the 3 continents claimed to have exterminated the Taoist cultivators. What was so strange about this? Chapter 31-23. This Chu Muhuan shook his head. Taoism was exterminated in the ancient times. It disappeared for a long time. We didn't know there was such a cultivation path. Later on, we didn't know when it started, but Taoism was revived, and we slowly knew the secret. However, this Taoist disciple didn't have much fame in the 3 continents, and I know very little about it. Oh right, doesn't fellow Taoist Xiao have Taoist cultivation? The previous one, was it a Taoist magic tool? En Xiaohua nodded slightly, but he was already absent-minded. Yes, on Xiaoyu continent, Xiaohua knew that Buddhism and Confucian cultivators had been exterminated by Taoism and no longer existed. Confucian cultivators might have some insignificant inheritances in the Dan-Rain continent, or perhaps in the millions of Ming Mountains. As for the Buddhist sect, they could be found in the ruins of the Buddhist sect. Now the only cold bamboo was killed by Xiaohua. Perhaps it would be difficult to find any Buddhist sect disciples in the Dan-Rain continent. However, on these 3 continents, things were actually the opposite. Everyone knew that Taoism had been exterminated by Buddhism and Confucian cultivators, and no longer existed. Although there was some revival now, the situation was similar to Buddhism and Confucian cultivators on Xiaoyu continent. Maybe even stronger than that. At least, Xiaohua didn't become a rat on the street, and everyone didn't want to beat him. As an overseas cultivator, Xiaohua could still show his Taoist cultivation, and not be killed by Confucian and Buddhist cultivators. But the question was, who was the one who killed who? These 3 continents and Xiaoyu continent. What was going on? Could it be that this was also an independent world like Demon Realm and Demon Realm? Did I come here by chance through the space vein? Could it be that whatever formation was made by heaven? And I'm afraid so. Only a natural formation could have such power. No matter what nascent soul cultivator or spirit-severing cultivator entered, they wouldn't be able to return. Xiaohua immediately understood. Moreover, the space vein of these 2 worlds is actually in the depths of Gui Hixi and Shi Hixi. It's far from what I imagined. Hehe, That's right, second senior brother didn't say where the space vein was. In the air, in the water, in the mountain rocks, maybe even in the flowers and plants. However, how did Confucian cultivators and Buddhist sects move to this world? Everyone, this is such a big deal. Forget it. Thinking of this, Xiaohua felt a headache coming on. This is an ancient secret. What does it have to do with this, Xiao? Right now, I have a home that I can't return to. It's better for me to think about how to raise my cultivation. Only by reaching the level of the 10,000 Demon Realms Empress can one discover the spatial vein and return to the Dawn-Rain continent. Xiaohua had gone through painstaking cultivation. Although his strength had not reached the level where he could challenge the spirit-severing stage, he had been suppressing the desire to return to the Dawn-Rain continent from the depths of the Kuai he see in a few days, and give the person who had plotted against him a head-on blow. At the very least, he had to avenge the 2 vengeful souls in Yellow Flower Ridge. He had to kill 2 nascent soul cultivators for everyone to see. But now that he was in a different realm, it would be extremely difficult for him to go back. He could only let go of this blood feud. Whether it was Yuanying or Avatar, their lifespans were extremely long. Enough for Xiaohua to find a spatial vein in the future and go back to take revenge. Of course, if he was unable to find the way back, Xiaohua would not be too disappointed in his heart. Everything that happened in the Dawn-Rain continent basically had an effect. The 2 people who treated Xiaohua the best had now died. Their souls had fallen into Xiaohua's space. From now on, they would accompany Xiaohua at all times, never to be separated. Although Xiaohua would sometimes think of Fairy Hongxia, when he thought of Fairy Hongxia's appearance in those days, and compared her to the dead Shueshui, Xiaohua's heart would involuntarily calm down. Time was the best elixir. If Fairy Hongxia's feelings for him were sincere enough, then these feelings might not fade because of time. Thinking of Fairy Hongxia, Xiaohua could not help but smile bitterly again. Fairy Hongxia wanted to distance herself from him, leaving space and time for the 2 of them to calm down. And the heavens had also fulfilled her wish. It was just that this distance was beyond Xiaohua and Fairy Hongxia's imagination. The distance between 2 realms, it was so far that Xiaohua could not imagine it. As for the time, it was far beyond Xiaohua's imagination. Xiaohua, who already knew the truth of the matter, had such thoughts. As for Fairy Hongxia, who also knew of Xiaohua's death, what did she think? The so-called time, the so-called space, those were the difference between life and death, the separation of yin and yang. This test could not be said to be not big, nor could it be said to be not far away. Who would know the result? Xiaohua's mood was somewhat gloomy. He lowered his head as if he was thinking. Chu Muhuan was somewhat baffled, but he did not dare to ask. Not only was Xiaohua's speech mysterious, his methods were also powerful. He was definitely the eccentric overseas rogue cultivator in his impression. After a while, the sky brightened. Xiaohua closed his eyes. His expression had already returned to normal. Clearly, he was comprehending the eye-clearing technique on the bamboo block. Xiaohua was calm, but Su Zhuoyang's face was abnormally anxious. He had opened up a distance of several tens of feet between the 4 of them. Unknowingly, he had already rushed in front of them. When the red sun rushed into the sky, the blue sky was clear as if it had been washed. On the blue sea surface, countless gray-white seabirds spread their wings and fluttered. The 5 of them arrived at the left side of a coral reef. This coral reef was roughly several li in size. It was either exposed above the sea surface or hidden below the sea surface. The multicolored corals were like flowers blooming in spring. They dyed the several li of sea surface, making them extremely easy to recognize. What was special was that on the coral reef facing the east, there was a protrusion about half a zhang tall. This protrusion seemed to be in the shape of a human, with a head and a face. Right now, facing the rising sun, it was like a child watching the sun. Sigh from far away, Su Zhuoyang released his divine sense. When he saw the empty coral reef, he couldn't help but sigh. He turned his head to look at the people still following behind him, and felt a wave of disappointment. Indeed, he had met up with the 3 of them, encountered Xiaohua, and then encountered the sea beasts halfway. The time spent in between was indeed too long. According to that person's cautious nature, he definitely wouldn't have waited here for too long. Perhaps his divination technique was really wrong. Or perhaps this was the true auspicious omen. Without going deep into the lost treasure, how could he encounter danger? Su Zhuoyang's sword light converged. He stopped on the reef and stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking into the distance. Fellow immortal Su, is this the place? Leopard Master was impatient. As soon as he saw Su Zhuoyang stop, he immediately called out. That's right. Su Zhuoyang's voice wasn't as loud as before. He said lightly, this is a hidden fisherman's reef in the West Sea. It's only a few li in circumference. Without a special route, it's not easy to find. That person asked us to meet here. Where is he? Master Qing Chen also flew over. He put away his rainbow luan and looked around curiously. The time has passed. Su Zhuoyang sighed. That person. I'm afraid he has already left. Su Swansea. Leopard Master was displeased. He said somewhat anxiously. It's not that I want to criticize you. Isn't it better for you to set up the meeting place here than anything else? But the meeting place is so far away from here. We didn't encounter any particularly powerful sea beasts along the way. If there were any disturbances from sea beasts, how could our sect have arrived? Su Zhuoyang also smiled bitterly. He bowed and said, fellow immortals, it's all my fault. I've made you come here in vain. I apologize to you. It's okay. Su Xiangyue. Although Master Qing Chen was also somewhat regretful, he still comforted him. Xiangyue has already said that person was more cautious. This place was obviously chosen by him. He didn't want us to know. It's not your fault. If we don't go, maybe we won't have the fortune to not go. At this time, Xiaohua also flew over with Chu Muhuan. He was walking at the back. Their words were already filled with many inscriptions. However, Xiaohua only pricked up his ears. Looking at their expressions, he knew that it was already too late. He didn't care. It didn't matter whether they went to the West Sea lost treasure or not. Since it was a lost treasure, it was bound to be dangerous. He still had Jiang Luer in his space. It was best if they didn't take risks. He couldn't wait to return to the Elysium with Master Qing Chen. It depends on fate to get the West Sea lost treasure. For so many years, I don't know how many people have come to the West Sea to search for treasures, but I've never heard of anyone who got the West Sea lost treasure. We came late, so naturally it's not fate. No one can be blamed. Chu Muhuan also comforted Su Zhuoyang. Su Swansea, don't you have a telepathic spell? Leopard Taoist Master urged. Send one. Maybe that person is waiting for you. Su Zhuoyang shook his head and said, I don't have that person's telepathic spell. Everything was arranged by that person. If I did, I would have sent it last night. Forget it. Leopard Taoist Master was disheartened. He looked around and asked, I'm unfamiliar with this place. I don't know if there are any useful sea beasts nearby. You and I, the five of us, can't come here in vain, right? It's also good to hunt some. Don't. Su Zhuoyang hurriedly waved his hand and said, this place is woo-woo. Just as Su Zhuoyang objected to Leopard Taoist Master, the sound of a tsunami came from the middle of the reef group. Everyone looked up and saw a brightly colored reef slowly emerging from the sea. When the reef came out of the sea, a head that was a few feet in size rose from the sea. This head was triangular. On top of it were two bright black eyes that were extremely careful. Behind the head was a slender neck that was connected to the reef. Under the reef was a body that was several feet in size. This body was like a huge millstone. Around the body were four thick legs that were several feet in size. Wow! What a big turtle! When Xiaohua saw this thing, he couldn't help but exclaim in his heart. This was the biggest turtle he had ever seen in his life. Chapter 31-24. Just as Xiaohua's astonishment was born, the tortoise's gaze swept over him. Hiss! Xiaohua's heart trembled and he sucked in a breath of cold air. He felt as if he had been seen through from the inside out. This tortoise. I'm afraid it has the strength of a late nascent soul stage. Xiaohua immediately made a simple judgment of the tortoise's cultivation. When Su Zhuoyang saw the tortoise appear, his face immediately filled with ecstasy. He hurriedly flew over, but didn't dare to get too close. He stood in midair and saluted with cupped fists. "Greetings, Senior Xian." Wu the huge tortoise raised its head and let out a low roar. Waves of snow rolled up around its body and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth rushed into the tortoise's body. Immediately after, the tortoise's body flashed with a blue brilliance and rapidly shrank. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a short old man less than 3 feet tall. This old man had shifty eyes and a goatee on his lower jaw. In particular, this old man's back was a bit hunched, and he carried a medium-sized tortoise shell on his back. Seeing the huge tortoise transform into a human, Xiaohua's eyes flashed with a strange light. However, when he saw the old man's appearance, he couldn't help but laugh. That's right, what was wrong with transforming into? Why did it have to be so ugly? Fortunately, the huge tortoise's transformation caused quite a stir. Just the waves near the coral reef were several feet tall. Amidst the sound of the waves, Xiaohua's faint laughter wasn't too obvious. Little friend Su the huge tortoise's voice wasn't jerky. It even carried a trace of dignity as it said indifferently, "This old man didn't make an appointment with you at this time. This old man originally wanted to leave, but it just so happened that I didn't have to be on duty today, so I came here to rest a little. This old man wasn't waiting for you." Senior Xian. Su Zhuoyang looked at the cultivators behind him who didn't even dare to breathe loudly and hurriedly said with a smile, "This one knows that I came late. I can't keep my promise anymore. It's this one's fault. This one also doesn't want to say anything more. However, these are all fellow immortals that this one invited from the 3 continents. If Senior is willing, could this one introduce them?" And Senior Xian nodded, tacitly agreeing. Seeing that the huge tortoise didn't refuse, Su Zhuoyang already had an idea. He pointed at Chu Muhuan, Master Clean Dust, and Leopard Taoist Master, and introduced them one by one. The 3 of them naturally also immediately came forward to greet him. Yes, that's right. This old man has heard of them before. Unfortunately, Senior Xian's expression did not change in the face of the 3 people's greetings, nor did he return their greetings. He only replied indifferently before turning his gaze to Xiaohua. "And this one? Are you the descendant of a great scholar on the hidden immortal continent?" "I'm afraid that Senior Xian is mistaken," Su Zhuoyang said with a smile. "This is fellow immortal Xiaohua Xiao. Although he was born in the Shi country of the hidden immortal continent, he is now a rogue cultivator of the West Sea." "Oh, cultivators of the West Sea? How come I didn't know?" Senior Xian's eyes lit up, and a layer of blue light flashed through them. Xiaohua felt a strange fluctuation sweep across his body. Then he heard Senior Xian say, "This old man knows most of the loose cultivators in the West Sea. Even if I don't know them, this old man knows where they came from. This little friend Xiao is a complete stranger." Hee hee, speaking of fellow immortal Xiao, I still have to tell Senior Xian in detail. Su Zhuoyang laughed even more happily. He looked at Xiaohua and said, "Fellow immortal Xiao, why don't you come and greet Senior Xian first?" "Yes, I'm Xiaohua. Greetings, Senior Xian." Xiaohua was quite easygoing as he bowed and said, "Get up." Senior Xian seemed to have noticed that Xiaohua's cultivation was different. He did not treat the other 3 as he raised his hand and said, "This old man is Xian Cheng, the deputy of the West Sea Patrol under the West Sea Dragon Palace. Since little friend Xiao is a West Sea rogue cultivator, you must have heard of this old man's name. See West Sea Patrol." Whether it was Chu Muhuan, Master Qing Chun, or even Leopard Spiritual Master, they were all shocked. Their expressions became even more respectful as they understood Su Zhuoyang's previous words. Unfortunately, Xiaohua had never heard of this name. He only regarded the West Sea as the Guihe Sea. However, he immediately changed into a respectful expression and said in a deadpan manner, "That's right. Senior's name is known to all cultivators in the West Sea. Although I haven't been in the West Sea for long, I've also heard of your name. However, this one has never seen you before, so I don't know you." Xiaohua's words were quite archaic. Most of them were pronounced with the inscriptions of armor. Xiancheng could hardly understand them, but Xiaohua's respect was not fake. Then Xiancheng was very satisfied with Xiaohua's respect, and the other 3's astonishment. He knew that his name was resounding, and that Su Zhuoyang hadn't revealed anything, so he opened his mouth to ask about other things. However, Su Zhuoyang knew Xiao Hua's ignorance and hurriedly said with a smile, "Speaking of fellow immortal Xiao, we're really fated to meet. We can be said to have become friends after a fight." "Oh, why?" Xiancheng was startled and asked curiously, "Could it be? Little friend Xiao wasn't invited by you?" "That's right," Su Zhuoyang hurriedly explained the whole story. In the end he said, "This is also a chance given to me and the patrol. That's the Great Heavenly Cycle Star Formation. I've only heard of it and have never seen it before." If fellow Immortal Chu had not seen the records of this formation before, you would have recognized it at a glance. "I don't even dare to believe my eyes. With little friend Xiao, our great matter." En Xiancheng was originally somewhat reluctant in his heart. Now that he heard Su Zhuoyang's roundabout persuasion, his heart was moved again. After all, there were many cultivators who were proficient in formations, but there were very few cultivators who understood this kind of ancient vicious formation like the Great Heavenly Cycle Star Formation. Actually, we weren't a match for fellow Immortal Xiao at all. We were defeated by fellow Immortal Xiao in just a few rounds. Unfortunately, although he was born in Hidden Immortal Continents U province, he wasn't proficient in our Hidden Immortal Continents language. He only spoke the ancient inheritance of Confucian cultivators, so we spent a lot of time communicating with him. Su Zhuoyang struck while the iron was hot and said, "Moreover, when we passed through an island just now, we encountered a sea beast and were blocked. If it wasn't for fellow Immortal Xiao, it would have been difficult for us to escape." "Oh? Which island?" Xiancheng's small eyes flickered again. "Tell me first." After Su Zhuoyang finished speaking, Xiancheng's face was very stunned. He looked at Xiao Hua with some disbelief and said, "That sea beast was extremely powerful. Back then it didn't submit to my discipline. Although it was fiercely taught by me once, I knew that it was in my heart. However, this old man also understood that it was indeed fate that allowed it to take human form. It was just a hair away from being able to take human form. It wasn't any worse than this old man. In these years, it already didn't come out to stir up trouble, and concentrated on cultivating. Therefore I didn't remind you. Who knew? It was actually killed by little friend Xiao. It's really fate making fools of people." Yes. With this delay, I came late." Su Zhuoyang didn't miss the opportunity and said again. Although he didn't say anything, he had already attributed the reason for the delay to the sea beast. Finally, it faintly fell on Xiancheng. "And I know. This matter can't be blamed on you. It was my negligence." Xiancheng nodded. "Thank you, Senior Xian." Su Zhuoyang was overjoyed. "Don't worry." Xiancheng waved his hand and looked at Xiao Hua. "Little friend Xiao, what about the sea beast's demon core? Do you have any use for it?" Xiao Hua was baffled and unconsciously looked at Su Zhuoyang. Su Zhuoyang hurriedly explained Xiancheng's meaning. "Oh, no use." Xiao Hua took out the demon core without hesitation and directly handed it to Xiancheng. "If Senior Xian has any use for it, please take it. Little friend Xiao is really generous." Xiancheng was really stunned. Although he didn't reach out to take it, his two small eyes blinked, and didn't leave the demon core in Xiao Hua's hand. "Haha, Senior Xian, this thing is useless to fellow Immortal Xiao. If you have a use for it, you can exchange it with fellow Immortal Xiao. There's no need to hesitate." Su Zhuoyang hurriedly said. Xiancheng nodded and said, "It's indeed so. One of this old man's divine abilities is precisely lacking that sea beast's inner core. If little friend Xiao has anything you wish to exchange for, feel free to say it. My West Sea Dragon Palace is filled with rare treasures. This old man will definitely satisfy you." After Su Zhuoyang finished speaking, Xiao Hua threw the demon core into Xiancheng's hand. He said with a smile, Xiao Hua himself had many cultivation methods and countless spirit herbs. He didn't lack anything at all. As for the cultivation methods and rare treasures of the 3 continents, he was even more in the dark now. How could he make a suitable request? It was better to be generous now and look for an opportunity later. However, just as he opened his mouth, he was suddenly shocked in his heart. He thought of a cultivation method that he hadn't found for a long time. Therefore, Xiao Hua hurriedly changed his words and said, I am very interested in the West Sea's water escape technique. I wonder if Senior Xian can part with it? Water escape technique? When Su Zhuoyang heard this, he couldn't help but be stunned. He seemed to have never heard of this cultivation method. After Xiaohua explained, Su Zhuoyang smiled and turned his head and said, Senior Xian, fellow immortal Xiao is very interested in the West Sea's water avoidance technique. I won't ask for other cultivation methods for fellow immortal Xiao. This water avoidance technique is an extremely common cultivation method in the West Sea. If Senior has it, you don't have to be stingy. Xiancheng was very satisfied that Xiaohua gave him the demon core without any conditions. When he heard that Xiaohua only wanted the West Sea's water avoidance technique, he was even more happy. The water avoidance technique was something that could be seen everywhere in the West Sea Dragon Palace. Xiaohua's words were obviously giving the demon core to him. As a result, Xiancheng felt even more embarrassed. How could he take out a simple water avoidance technique? After thinking for a moment, Xiancheng stretched out his hand and took out a square jade eye from his sleeve. He handed it to Xiaohua and said, Fellow immortal Xiao, this is a water avoidance technique that I obtained when I accompanied the West Sea's army to conquer Jianghu. It is said that it was passed down from the Heavenly Abode River. Although this thing is not unique to my West Sea Dragon Palace, it is extremely mysterious. I'm afraid it is more suitable for you humans. This thing has been idle for thousands of years. I will give it to you now. Senior Xian, this is a good thing. I thank Senior on behalf of fellow immortal Xiao. Su Zhuoyang hurriedly replied and then explained to Xiaohua. Great. Xiaohua was overjoyed. He hurriedly received it and sent it into the space. He said respectfully, Many thanks for Senior Xian's gift. I am very grateful. Chapter 31-25. Haha, good. Xiancheng saw that Xiaohua didn't even look at it. Obviously, he believed it and laughed. He took out a thin invite-like thing and handed it to Xiaohua. Little friend Xiao, this old man's voice transmission spell. When you finish cultivating the water avoidance spell, you can come to the Dragon Palace for a while. After listening to Su Zhuoyang's explanation, Xiaohua was overjoyed. He respectfully took the voice transmission spell and carefully put it away. Xiaohua had already obtained a lot of treasures in the West Sea before he started searching for them. He didn't want to follow the crowd to the west. Seeing Xiancheng like this, Su Zhuoyang was very happy. He knew that Xiancheng was cautious by nature. He was as timid as a mouse. Otherwise, he wouldn't only contact him. He would take care of everything else. Even the location of the meeting was a secret. Moreover, he had an intuition that even if he could arrive in time, Xiancheng might not appear in time or there might be other tests. As for the thing that Xiancheng gave to Xiaohua, Su Zhuoyang understood Xiancheng's stinginess from the bottom of his heart. As Su Zhuoyang said, the water avoidance spell was nothing in the West Sea. It was different from the secret techniques of the Fecta sect. Any member of the water race in the West Sea Dragon Palace must know the water avoidance spell. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to enter the Dragon Palace. Of course, the water avoidance spell was the innate ability of the water race. Most of the water race couldn't use it. However, there were good and bad water avoidance spells. The origin energy consumed, and the effects were different. Su Zhuoyang could tell that Xiancheng had at least dozens of water avoidance spells just by looking at his feet. However, Xiancheng didn't take out any water avoidance spell of the water race in the West Sea. Instead, he gave a water avoidance spell of the heavenly abode to Xiaohua. Su Zhuoyang didn't think that this water avoidance spell was anything special. However, he couldn't say anything about it. He could only say that this water avoidance spell was a good thing. Xiaohua didn't know any water avoidance spell. It was already good that he could get one from Xiancheng. Of course, Xiancheng had received benefits from Xiaohua. Although Xiaohua couldn't receive the corresponding rewards, these treasure hunts in the West Sea had been guaranteed. Xiancheng would definitely fulfill his promise and bring Su Zhuoyang and the others to the secret location of the West Sea. Furthermore, Su Zhuoyang already had a plan in his heart. If there were other fateful encounters in the West Sea relic, he would definitely think of Xiaohua, and not let Xiaohua waste the inner core of a 4th grade essence Qi Si beast for nothing. Senior Xian. After Xiao Hua put away the voice transmission spell, Su Zhuoyang probed. This trip to the West Sea is really not easy for us, and it's really helpless that we missed the time. It wasn't easy for me to find a few good friends. Especially, being able to find a formation grandmaster like fellow Taoist Xiao has even increased our chances of finding treasures. What do you think? Although Xiancheng had already somewhat loosened up, he still hadn't officially agreed to Su Zhuoyang's request. Hearing Su Zhuoyang's words, he was still somewhat hesitant. Looking at the rolling waves in the distance and the birds and fishes enjoying themselves, he said hesitantly, "We haven't even set out and already encountered a delay. I'm afraid this trip is inauspicious." Senior Xian knows. Before this junior came to the West Sea, I already used my sex divination technique to divine the location, Su Zhuoyang said with a smile. Without waiting for Su Zhuoyang to finish speaking, Xiancheng hastily called out, "What's the result?" "Naturally, it's an auspicious omen," Su Zhuoyang said with a smile. "Otherwise, how could I have arrived at the West Sea so smoothly?" A hint of joy flashed through Xiancheng's small eyes, but then he hesitated again. It seemed that he was really timid and cautious. "Little friend Xiao, what do you think?" Suddenly, Xiancheng turned his head and looked at the leisurely Xiao Hua. Although Xiao Hua didn't quite understand the words of the three continents, he still understood the first half of Xiancheng's sentence. Without any hesitation, he shrugged and spread his hands, saying, "I've already obtained the water avoidance art. I have nothing else to ask for. And to be honest, I don't know what you're talking about. If you want to go, I'll go. If you don't want to go, I'm more than happy to oblige." At the side, Su Zhuoyang sighed in his heart. However, he still honestly explained Xiao Hua's words to Xiancheng. Unexpectedly, Xiancheng laughed loudly and waved his hand, saying, "Since I was able to meet little friend Xiao, a formation master, and I was able to obtain that item, this in itself is an auspicious omen. How can we not go?" Good. Not only did Su Zhuoyang's suspended heart settle, but the others also showed joy on their faces. Everyone had come to the West Sea with great difficulty. Naturally, they weren't willing to return empty-handed. Quick, without waiting for Su Zhuoyang and the others to speak, Xiancheng opened his mouth, and a water-blue brilliance flew out like a fountain. When it rushed into the air, it immediately turned into specks of fireflies and fell on the sea surface. As soon as these fireflies touched the water surface, they immediately trembled and spread out in all directions with incomparable speed. Xiancheng's figure fell from midair. His foot was stepping on the sea surface. His whole body moved up and down with the waves, and his eyes were closed. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Xiancheng opened his eyes. With a wave of his hand, he took out a walking stick from somewhere, and said with a smile, "Let's go immediately." Xiancheng's figure didn't leave the water surface. He quickly floated towards the west. Looking at his speed, it was actually not slower than the flying of ordinary cultivators. Seeing Xiancheng fly away, Su Zhuoyang didn't need to say anything to Master Qingchen and the others. That leopard Taoist master was the first to give chase. Master Qingchen and Chu Muhuan naturally wouldn't release their mounts. Similarly, faint clouds and mist appeared under their feet, carrying the two of them to fly into the distance. "Let's go, fellow immortal Xiao." Su Zhuoyang originally wanted to urge his flying sword, but seeing that Xiao Hua still hadn't gotten up, he hurriedly said, "This is all thanks to fellow immortal Xiao. Later, there's no need to say too much to me." Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, "I don't care where we go on this trip. I'll only distribute things according to how much effort I put in." "Yes, I understand." Su Zhuoyang nodded. His figure flew along with the sword light, and he didn't forget to explain, "I definitely won't treat fellow immortal unfairly. Please rest assured, fellow immortal Xiao." Xiao Hua nodded slightly. His figure also turned into the wind, silently flying along with Su Zhuoyang. His mind was now on the bamboo slips, and he didn't care about Su Zhuoyang's words at all. With his cultivation, if he wanted to do something, could Su Zhuoyang and the others stop him? He didn't believe that these people didn't know this. Su Zhuoyang flew for a moment, then passed everyone and flew to Xiancheng's side. He seemed to be discussing something with Xiancheng. Behind the two of them was Leopard Taoist, followed by Master Qingchen and Chu Muhuan. Xiao Hua himself was at the back. They watched as the sun rose from the east and reached the middle of the sky. Then, it passed by the crowd and left their backs behind. Fog rose above the surface of the sea. Dusk had arrived. The originally green sky was now dark. Although there was no blood red from the burning clouds, the orange-red sunlight shone down listlessly. The sea and the sky were filled with decadence. On the surface of the sea that didn't seem to have any signs at all, Xianqing suddenly stopped. He waved his hand, and immediately, a drop of water-blue brilliance fell into the sea. This brilliance was the same as the brilliance that Xianqing spoke of earlier, rushing in all directions with incomparable speed. Xianqing's words were too sudden, and Su Zhuoyang was caught off guard. His figure flew several feet away in an instant. When he stopped and saw Xianqing casting the technique, he couldn't help but be stunned. He looked around and said with extreme astonishment, "Senior Xian, this is the place you were talking about?" "That's right." Xianqing nodded indifferently. "It's here. It can't be." Su Zhuoyang knew that what he said was somewhat inappropriate, but he couldn't help but ask curiously. "The West Sea relic is in the depths of the West Sea, and the spiritual qi of heaven and earth is all dried up. I thought that we would have to fly to the extreme west for several days, or even more than 10 days. How could we stop here? The spiritual qi here is abundant, and it's still very far from the extreme west. How could it be?" Su Zhuoyang said, "How could it be?" a few times. Wizard Qingchen and the others also flew closer, and they were also puzzled. He, who said that the West Sea relic must be in the extreme west. Who said that the West Sea relic must be in a place where the spiritual qi is dried up? Xianqing sneered. "That's all hearsay. I've been patrolling the West Sea for who knows how many years, and I know the territory of the West Sea like the back of my hand. There is no spiritual qi in the extreme west, and the sea insects can't even grow there. How could the West Sea relic be there? But the West Sea relic was left behind because of the war that annihilated the Taoists. The war was so fierce that it caused the spiritual qi in the extreme west to be dried up, and it couldn't recover for 1,000,000 years." Chu Muhuan whispered. "So the West Sea relic went to the extreme west. Humph, this kind of baseless guess has ruined many immortals." Xianqing didn't take it seriously. He looked at the rippling sea water and said, "They went to the extreme west where the spiritual qi was dried up. Not only did they not find the West Sea relic, but they also lost their lives there. There's something strange here." Leopard Immortal's withered yellow eyes turned slightly, and he suddenly said. Xianqing raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Junior Leopard, you found something strange?" Leopard Immortal's face showed a trace of embarrassment, but Xianqing's cultivation, age, and identity were enough to call him Junior Leopard. He could only point his finger and said, "I followed you all the way here. Although I didn't see any sea beasts, there were a lot of sea fish, sea shrimps, and seabirds. But here, it seems that there are no living creatures within a radius of 100 miles. Even seaweed are rare." "Yes, that's right." Master Qingchen and the others hurriedly used their divine senses. Sure enough, they saw that the West Sea under their feet was exactly as Leopard Immortal said. "Junior Leopard, you deserve to be a spiritual creature of the 1,000 Demons' sacred realm," Xianqing praised. "I've been patrolling the West Sea for who knows how many years, and I don't know how many times I've passed by here, but I've never found anything strange like this." Alas, Su Zhuoyang sighed and said, "The territory of the West Sea is unimaginably vast. The sea surface of 100 miles is just a drop in the ocean. We've only been flying on the sword for a moment. How could we notice the situation here?" Chapter 31:26. Then Su Zhuoyang took out a jade eye and looked at it for a moment. He said with a wry smile, "From the sea map given by Senior Xian, it seems that this place is much closer to the lava island than the Fisherman's Reef. My ink cloud pupil was found in this sea area," Xianqing said proudly. "My friend Su must have seen it, right?" "Yes." Su Zhuoyang nodded. "I've seen it a long time ago, and so have you. We all think that what is written in it should be true." But Master Qingchen was a little puzzled. "Since this is the location of the West Sea relic, then How could Ink Cloud Pupil be here? I don't know, Xiancheng said with a smile. But in my opinion, this West Sea relic has been in the West Sea for a long time. I'm afraid that some immortals have already come to look for it. This Ink Cloud Pupil should be left by them after they failed to break the formation, right? Yes, you're right. Master Qingchen nodded slightly, knowing that what Xiancheng said was reasonable. In my early years, I secretly went down there according to the records of Ink Cloud Pupil, Xiancheng said mysteriously. I've also seen the formation of the relic, so I sent a message to Su Zhuoyang and asked him to invite his best friends to come together. When everyone heard this, they looked at each other and were overjoyed. At the same time, they understood why Su Zhuoyang looked for them. Obviously, he had come prepared. All right, Xiancheng spoke to everyone while looking at the surface of the sea. While this old man is inspecting the surrounding 10,000 li of sea, let's discuss everything that happened after we entered. Although there are many records in Ink Cloud Pupil, they are not detailed and many places are vague. We have to make a foolproof plan. Yes, I'll listen to your instructions. Su Zhuoyang nodded and agreed. But when he saw Xiaohua, who was a few feet away from him, squinting his eyes as if he was comprehending something, he said with a smile, "Fellow immortal Xiao." "Oh please." Xiaohua opened his eyes and said, "Here, I can explain to fellow immortal Xiao. This is the most famous West Sea relic among the 3 continents and 4 seas. According to old legends, it's the place where the ancient Taoists were annihilated." Su Zhuoyang did not hide it and explained, "Fellow immortal Xiao has Taoist cultivation. If you can get something from the relic, you will be like a tiger with wings." Oh, a relic of the West Sea? The place where the Tao sect was annihilated? Xiaohua raised his brows in astonishment. No one knew that the Tao sect was living a carefree life in the Dawn Rain continent. "Yes, I won't lie to you," Su Zhuoyang said solemnly. "Fellow immortal, if you can lend us a hand and go to the place where the treasures are, you will definitely be able to get a share that you like. Now, we need to discuss how to enter, and how to deal with some unexpected situations. If fellow immortal is willing, I can explain everything to fellow immortal." "Forget it." Xiaohua waved his hand. "That would be too troublesome. Why don't you all discuss this? If you need this Xiao's help, feel free to tell this Xiao. I trust fellow immortal Su." Su Zhuoyang's heart warmed. He bowed and said, "Thank you for your trust, fellow immortal Xiao." Soon after, Xiaohua comprehended the eye-clearing technique. Xiancheng and the other 4 discussed their next move. Unknowingly, the night had already covered the entire horizon. Although there was a moon tonight, at some unknown time, the originally clear sky during the day was filled with clouds. The full moon was covered by thick clouds. The entire West Sea seemed to not have a trace of light. "All right." Xiancheng's voice was heard. "Everything has been discussed more or less. It's useless to think too much. Let's talk about it after we go in. We have to act according to the situation." "Yes, we will listen to Senior's instructions." Taoist Leopard and the others agreed in a low voice. Ooh, a strange sound was heard, as if a hurricane was dancing. Xiancheng raised the walking stick in his hand. The tip of the walking stick flashed with a gray brilliance, and the sound was heard go. Xiancheng pointed the walking stick at the surface of the sea. Woo woo woo, a ghost-like wailing sound was heard from a point on the sea surface. The spiritual energy within a radius of 100 miles surged towards this point. That small gray point suddenly swelled, and actually became a whirlpool the size of a bowl. Hua hua hua. Following the whirlpool, the seawater gradually expanded, and gradually went deeper. Just when everyone's gaze fell on the whirlpool, Xiancheng suddenly raised his head. His 2 small eyes were like pitch-black gems, flashing with brilliance as he looked at the distant night sky. Xiaohua and the others were also greatly alarmed. They hurriedly turned their heads. Whoosh! Before the 5 people could see clearly, a crisp sound was heard from the sea surface 100 feet away. A thumb-sized jade light rushed into the air. Roar! A low and deep hiss was heard from that jade light. Countless waves rose from the sea surface out of nowhere and rushed into the jade light. Immediately, a huge python that was several tens of feet long, and as thick as a water bucket appeared from the jade light. Yu Xiancheng's expression changed greatly. He said in astonishment, "Why are you here? You've been following this old man all this time? Ga, an unusually coquettish and especially strange sharp sound came from the huge python's mouth. That huge python slowly shrunk again. After a moment, a monster with the upper body of a woman and the lower body of a python wearing tight armor appeared in front of everyone's eyes. This servant felt that you were strange. The snake woman opened her mouth and her snake tongue flashed out. She said in a sharp voice, "You're not on duty today. Why didn't you rest in the Dragon Palace? Instead, you sneaked out. So it turned out that you came here. It's just that this servant doesn't understand. What are you doing here?" "Bai Hao Jiao," Xiancheng sneered. "This old man is the deputy of the West Sea Patrol. You're also the deputy of the West Sea Patrol. In terms of age, you're still this old man's junior. What qualifications do you have to question this old man? If you want to follow this old man and find out this old man's shortcomings, then step on this old man to seek the position of the West Sea Patrol. Then you're wrong." "Ha ha ha, old geezer Xian, you've finally said what's in your heart." Bai Hao Jiao laughed loudly. "I didn't expect that after enduring this servant for so many years, you've finally said it today." "Humph, how could this old man not know that you want to step on this old man to rise up?" Xiancheng sneered. "You've stirred up this old man's wrongs in every possible way in front of the patrol, and you've even said this old man's shortcomings in front of the Dragon Palace's guards. You're just short of flattering the Dragon King of the West Sea." TSK, Bai Hao Jiao didn't seem to be angry. He smacked his lips and that strange snake tongue rapidly retracted. "You old fart, you don't have any ability at all. You only know how to patrol the sea and you're even blocking this servant's path. If this servant wants to be the patrol, then shouldn't this servant first move you away? You and I both know this very well. There's no need to say it clearly in front of outsiders. I just don't know why you dare to say the words you've been holding back for over 1,000 years today. If this servant hadn't followed you, I still don't know what you've united these people from the 3 continents to do here. What gave you the courage to do so? Is there any need for you to care what this old man does?" After Xiancheng finished speaking, he seemed to have some regret. He waved his hand and said, "These are all this old man's close friends. This old man merely brought them out for a walk. Now that it's late, this old man will bring them back to the Dragon Palace." That's pretty good." Bai Hao Jiao nodded. "Since that's the case, this servant will return to the Dragon Palace and report to the patrol tomorrow, or invite a few close friends over. The sea scenery here is very beautiful. We'll have to stay here for a few more days." "That's right, old geezer Xian. How many days do you think this servant should ask for leave from the patrol?" You Xiancheng had never expected that there would be someone following behind him. Moreover, this person was the one he couldn't deal with the most, and the one who opposed him with equal harshness. Thinking of this, Xiancheng's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. "Haha, what? Old geezer Xian, do you still want to kill me?" Bai Hao Jiao didn't seem to be afraid. She seemed to be teasing him. "Not to mention that this servant has already left my jade eyes before coming out. Even in this West Sea, you and I are both patrol deputies. Do you think, with these 5 people, you can definitely kill this servant? If you don't, as long as you make a move, your thousands of years of hiding and enduring hardships will all turn into flowing water. Not only will you not be able to surpass this servant, you will also be punished by the iron law of the West Sea Dragon Palace." Hearing this, Xiancheng was immediately discouraged. He knew very well that in this West Sea, he definitely couldn't kill Bai Hao Jiao. This was also one of the reasons why she dared to follow him. "Since there's no other way, why don't you tell me your plan?" Bai Hao Jiao chuckled. Hearing this, everyone felt a chill. If this servant is interested, perhaps all right. Since things had come to this, Xiancheng had no other choice. He could only tell the whole story in full detail. "Ah, this place is really a treasure of the West Sea?" Even though Bai Hao Jiao was also the patrol deputy of the West Sea, she didn't dare to believe Xiancheng's words. "If you don't believe me, feel free to leave," Xiancheng said indifferently. "This old man will take these fellow immortals down." "Hee, even if this servant doesn't believe you, I still want to take a look. How could Bai Hao Jiao let go of such an excellent opportunity?" she asked. However, how should this servant divide it with you? Naturally, it's 10%. Xiancheng had already thought about it. He answered very helplessly. No, this servant wants 20%. Bai Hao Jiao replied without any trace of politeness. How is that possible? Xiancheng almost jumped up in anger. He said furiously. Bai Hao Jiao glanced at Xiaohua and the others. Her cold gaze caused goosebumps to rise on Xiaohua and the others. If this servant's guess is correct, these fellow immortals will all get 10%. Bai Hao Jiao said indifferently. What about the remaining 50%? Old geezer Xian, you'll get 50%. This servant will get 20%, and you'll get 30%. It's more than anyone else. Are you still not happy? Think about it yourself. If you don't agree, we'll go our separate ways. Not to mention you getting 50%. Even if you get 100%, I'm afraid you won't get 30%. Chapter 31-27. Facing Bai Hao Jiao's threat, Xiancheng was helpless. This was also the reason why, even though he was an elder, he had always been suppressed by Bai Hao Jiao. Fine. Xiancheng thought for a moment, then nodded and said, this old man agrees. However, you still have to contribute to this matter. Otherwise, the servant naturally knows this. Isn't there a saying in the hidden immortal continent? How can this servant be a freeloader? This servant will help you right now. Bai Hao Jiao said with a charming smile. Then he lowered his head to look at the whirlpool that was as thick as a bull's mouth, and the hurricane that had already disappeared. He opened his mouth and roared. A blue light rushed out and landed on the whirlpool. Woo, that gust of wind swept up again, and the whirlpool rapidly expanded. A hurricane gradually formed around the whirlpool. When the whirlpool was 3 meters wide, Bai Hao Jiao swung his snake tail, and a layer of water blue runes strangely appeared and hit the hurricane. Whoosh, just like the upheaval that Xiaohua encountered on the heavenly sea, the hurricane suddenly fell and smashed into the whirlpool. With a loud rumble, the whirlpool that was already 300 meters deep became even more turbulent and rushed into the depths of the western sea. Let's go, Xiancheng sighed. Water mist appeared under his feet, and carried his somewhat tired body into the whirlpool. Bai Hao Jiao and the others also followed. Xiaohua was also the last to enter. When he entered the whirlpool, he looked inside and unconsciously stuck out his tongue, feeling an indescribable sense of disbelief. This was a channel of water that was 3 meters wide. The whirlpool spun from time to time, blocking the dark green water outside the whirlpool. This rotation was extremely fast, and what the naked eye could see was different. The spinning waves were frozen there like ice sculptures, extremely spectacular. Looking down, it was dark green again. The channel formed by the whirlpool seemed to extend as far as the eye could see. Boom! Just as Xiaohua entered the whirlpool, the dark green water behind him closed, and the water behind him chased after him. Xiaohua activated his vast righteous energy, and used a sword technique to fly on his sword. His body directly fell into the sea. This island was actually very deep. It took the 7 of them 2 hours to reach the bottom of the sea. Xiancheng waved his hand, and a pearl the size of a fist flew out of his hand. As the pearl's brilliance was waved out, the seawater within 100 feet of it was pushed away by the brilliance. Water avoidance pearl. Xiaohua's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help but smack his lips, secretly saying, "This is a good thing." Old Xian, is he here? Bai Hao Jiao's gaze swept across the area. He saw that there were both silt and reefs at the bottom of the sea. There were also pitch-black things on the reefs. If he looked closely, he would see that those things were made up of tens of thousands of pitch-black insects. Of course it's not here. Xiancheng said coldly. Come with me. Haha. What's the point of hiding here? Bai Hao Jia sneered. He was not afraid of Xiancheng having any tricks up his sleeve. He followed Xiancheng and floated to a certain spot. The calmer Bai Hao Jia was, the more guilty Xiancheng felt. Even if he had some plans, he didn't dare to test them now. After the time it took to eat a meal, a pitch-black reef appeared before everyone's eyes. Xiancheng listened down and pointed with a finger, saying, "It's here." "Oh, here? It seems there's nothing special about it." Bai Hao Jiao floated to the reef without a care. Blue light flashed in his eyes as he spoke in a strange manner. You'll know once you use my West Sea's dusk transformation technique, Xianqing said indifferently. This was originally cast by me, so I'll leave it to you. If you don't use your water spiritual power, how will you be worthy of the 20% of the lost treasure? Dusk transformation technique? Why did you think of casting the dusk transformation technique here? Bai Haojiao was quite confused. If you want the lost treasure and want to enter the treasury, then use it. Xianqing didn't answer him. Instead, he urged him. Bai Haojiao coldly looked at Xianqing, as if he was thinking about the truth of Xianqing's words. His slightly protruding snake eyes flashed with a faint scarlet light. Xianqing didn't show any weakness. Although there wasn't any special light in his beady eyes, he stared straight at the snake eyes without backing down. I'm tired from casting the technique just now. I'll rest for a while more. Bai Haojiao's expression suddenly changed, and he smiled somewhat stiffly. Oh, haven't you always boasted that your cultivation is deeper than mine? Haven't you always said that I'm not worthy of being the vice patrol envoy in front of the patrol envoy? Why is it that I've just entered the West Seas lost my spiritual power today? Do you think I'll believe you? Xianqing smiled faintly. Of course, it's fine if you don't contribute. You must give up 5% of the share that we've just discussed. Old turtle shell. Are you threatening me? Bai Haojiao's expression turned even colder as he said angrily. Hearing Bai Haojiao call him an old turtle shell, Xianqing's face turned red. He almost stuttered as he shouted. You can contribute if you want. I'll cast the technique now. Wait. I'll enter the treasure house. Let's see what face you have to snatch credit from me. Hee, so what if I snatch credit from you? It's not like I've been snatching it for a day or two. Bai Haojiao saw that Xianqing was anxious, and he was very happy in his heart. He smiled again and said, however, today, I don't dare to not contribute. You can wait on the side. As he spoke, Bai Haojiao glanced at Su Zhuoyang and the others, and flew out from the light of the water avoidance pearl. Once Bai Haojiao fell into the sea, his body immediately flashed with blue water light. His body rapidly expanded, and in a moment, he returned to his original form of a huge python that was dozens of feet long. Roar. Although they were at the bottom of the sea, the huge python's roar still reached Xiaohua's ears. Following the roar, the light of the water avoidance pearl quickly converged, and the surrounding sea water immediately swayed. An indescribable heavy pressure passed through the light, and Xiaohua's body immediately gave birth to a layer of faint dark golden light. Looking at Su Zhuoyang's body, he also gave birth to a silver-white light that protected him. Wizard Qing Chen's body flashed with Buddhist light, Chu Muhuan's body gave birth to a green gas, and Leopard Spiritual Master's thick earthy yellow demon aura transformed into a strange armor. Oh! Xiaohua's gaze fell on the flashing light around everyone, and he seemed to understand something. The four people's light was different, and their body attributes were probably not the same. The reason Su Zhuoyang and the others were here was to break the formation. Bai Haojiao rushed into the sea. Following her roar, layers of blue light were emitted from her huge body. Wherever the light passed, countless thin strands of light would rush against the light and rush into her body. Following the entry of these thin strands of light, the huge python's body gradually became crystal clear. When the huge python's body was almost transparent, the huge python's body twisted rapidly in midair, and the entire sea water at the bottom of the sea was completely stirred up by this huge python. Following the stirring of the seawater, a huge strange blue rune slowly emerged from the huge python's body. It was as if it was shedding its shell, and it fell inch by inch. After the time it took to eat half a meal, the huge python that seemed to have gone crazy slowly stopped. The surrounding seawater was still shaking violently, and it supported the huge rune as it fell onto the pitch-black reef that was several acres in size. Boom! There was also a huge sound, and the entire seabed was shaken. Xiaohua could even feel the impact of the reef under his feet. Following the descent of this rune, a layer of blue brilliance rapidly rippled across the entire pitch-black reef. Wherever the light passed, the pitch-black reefs would change visibly. The originally pitch-black worms instantly withered and dried up under the light of the twilight transformation technique, and then slowly solidified. By the time the entire reef was covered by the twilight transformation, all the pitch-black darkness had turned into a layer of withering, covering the reef like a tortoise's shell. The moment the twilight transformation disappeared, a layer of yellow sand slowly emerged from the four sides of the dried-up area. It was precisely the opposite of the twilight transformation's light that extended towards the center of the reef. Sha 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 sha, the sound of silkworms swallowing mulberry leaves echoed in everyone's ears. At this moment, Bai Haojiao had turned back into her human form. Her face was pale, and she didn't return to the light of the water avoidance pearl. Instead, she distanced herself from Xiancheng, as if she was afraid that Xiancheng would plot against her. However, her gaze was the same as Xiaohua and the others. She was very puzzled as she watched the yellow sand gradually cover the entire reef. This soon, the reef was completely covered in yellow sand, but the reef didn't change at all. Old tortoise shell, you dared to deceive this servant. Bai Haojiao's pale face suddenly became angry, and she hurriedly cursed. Humph, ignorant. Xiancheng sneered. This old man only said that the twilight transformation was effective, but I didn't say that it would succeed. If it was a simple twilight transformation, wouldn't this Western Sea's lost treasure have been discovered long ago? As he spoke, Xiancheng reached into his bosom and took out a purple-red pearl smaller than his thumb. Although the pearl was small, it was extremely brilliant. Traces of purple and red lightning rapidly flashed within the pearl. An aura that Xiaohua was very familiar with emanated from the pearl. Lightning condensation pearl? Bai Haojiao frowned and asked curiously, could it be that you still want this item? Nonsense. Xiancheng said coldly. Do you think this old man's 30% was taken for free? This old man has only encountered 2 lightning condensation pearls in my life. Last time, this old man already used one to open the seal. This is the last one. If this time, we still can't break the formation and enter the treasury, this old man has no other choice. Bai Haojiao knew how precious this lightning condensation pearl was. Even the Western Sea Dragon Palace had a shortage of this item. If Xiancheng used this item to break the seal, she could only comply with Xiancheng's arrangements. Kacha Xiancheng waved his hand, and the lightning condensation pearl landed on the yellow sand. He then pointed his finger, and a blue watery light rushed out, and the lightning condensation pearl immediately shattered. Zalala, countless lightning bolts exploded from the pearl, as if 10,000 flood dragons had pounced onto the yellow sand. And those seemingly sturdy yellow sand instantly turned into powder under the lightning, disappearing into the water. Chapter 31:28. Alas, seeing this, Bai Haojiao sighed and said faintly, this is the bottom of the West Sea. Where did the lightning come from? If it weren't for the thunder condensing bead, even if others came here, they wouldn't be able to distinguish the true appearance of the treasury entrance. As the yellow sand disappeared from the reef, the thing below was revealed. Everyone couldn't wait to use the divine sense technique and the clear eyes technique to look at that side. Xiaohua naturally released his divine sense without hesitation. When Xiaohua saw the several acres of land, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The shock in his heart was unparalleled. Xiaohua had seen the decline of the whirling world in the ruins of the Buddhist sect, and he had also seen the decline of the Million Buddha painting. He had also seen the real ruins of the Buddhist sect in the Million Buddha painting. Although those places could be described as vast, they were filled with a kind of old and perished aura. It was a kind of aura of passing away. And this several acres of land was actually a kind of Buddhist array. A Buddhist array that seemed to be laid on a blue stone. This Buddhist array was engraved with 18 arhats of different figures. These arhats were either empty-handed or holding Buddhist staffs. There were even 2 mighty arhats who were angrily subduing dragons and tigers. These 18 arhats were huge in size, and they were divided into 18 regions, completely occupying an area of several acres. Under the careful sweep of Xiaohua's divine sense, he understood. The figures of these 18 arhats were not truly engraved on the blue stone. Instead, they were formed by countless Sanskrit characters that flickered with a faint Buddhist light. These runes quietly stagnated on the blue stone, as if they were part of the blue stone. Looking at these bluestone emitting a faint Buddhist light, Xiaohua thought without hesitation that this bluestone might not be bluestone. It was probably formed by billions of Sanskrit characters. 10. 18 Arhats array? How is this possible? Master Qingchen was even more shocked than the others. He almost blurted out, how could the secret array of the Western Paradise appear here? Master Qingchen, this Buddhist array. Su Zhuoyang was also shocked by this Buddhist array. At this time, he came back to his senses, and his face was very ugly. He turned to look at Xiancheng and asked Master Qingchen, this is our Buddhist sect's very famous Buddhist array, called the 18 Arhat array. Su Tanyue, please take a look. The one sitting on the deer is Arhat sitting deer. The others are Arhat holding bull, Arhat totem, Arhat riding elephant, Arhat laughing lion, Arhat happy, Arhat reaching hand, Arhat meditation, Arhat ear digging, Arhat pouch, Arhat long brows, Arhat guarding door, Arhat sitting meditation, Arhat crossing river, Arhat subduing dragon, and Arhat subduing tiger. They are the 18 Arhats, the 18 eminent monks of my Elysium. Each of them has their own divine abilities and methods. This 18 Arhat formation has even condensed the divine abilities of the 18 Arhats within it. Unless one is an almighty, one cannot break the formation. As he said that, Venerable Qingchen looked at Xiancheng and smiled bitterly. Senior Xian, if you want us to break this Buddha formation, I'm afraid it's impossible. Yes, the little nun is right. Bai Haojiao's expression returned to normal. He glanced at Venerable Qingchen and asked Xiancheng, this Buddha formation has a vast aura. I was intimidated by these 18 Arhats at first glance. Moreover, this Buddha formation is divided into 18 regions. None of the regions can be broken by us. Not to mention that the 18 regions are connected together. I don't believe that these 18 regions have no connection with each other. Old turtle shell, do you have this ability? Hee, Xiancheng sneered and said, this old man has already seen this 18 Arhat formation. Otherwise, how could I let fellow immortal Su find a Buddhist formation master? How could I let fellow immortal Su find 4 fellow immortals who can control the 5 elements primordial qi? Oh, you've already prepared? Bai Haojia was somewhat surprised. You can break the Buddha formation? Then he looked at the surrounding cultivators in disbelief and said in surprise, just based on these few cultivators with primordial qi of no more than 3rd or 4th stage. How would I know if I don't try? Xiancheng said indifferently. This old man has lived for so many years. Although my cultivation can't compare to yours, my knowledge should surpass yours, right? Bai Haojiao knew about the grudge between him and Xiancheng. This kind of conflict of interest could not be easily resolved. This time it was only a temporary cooperation. When they returned to the Dragon Palace, it would still be the same scheming as before. Therefore he did not continue the conversation. Little friend Xiao, you know about formations. Let's see how you can break it. Xiancheng was not in a hurry to say the method of breaking it. Instead he looked at Xiaohua. Yes, this Xiao will take a careful look first. Xiaohua nodded and released his divine sense to examine carefully. Oh, you actually know about formations? Bai Haojiao did not expect that the most silent Xiaohua was actually a formation master. Moreover, seeing Xiaohua actually release his divine sense, it was even more inconceivable. You are actually a Taoist disciple? There is nothing impossible in this world. Xiancheng replied indifferently. Do you think that everything in this world is in your eyes? Xiaohua closed his eyes and released his divine sense. After a full meal's time, he opened his eyes and said, this 18 Arhat formation is really powerful. The 18 Arhats are like the same person. They are tightly intertwined and inseparable. If we want to break the formation, it is absolutely impossible with just the few of us. Of course Xiaohua changed the topic. With the few people that Senior Xian found, this Xiao thinks that if we use the 5 elements formation of Taoism to divide these 18 Arhats into 5 parts and cut off their connections, then it is not impossible to break them one by one. In particular, we just want to enter and do not need to completely break it. As long as we break one part, we can make this Buddhist formation reveal a flaw. Su Zhuoyang, who was at the side, naturally explained what Xiaohua said again. Good. Xiancheng clapped and said, little friend Xiao has the same idea as this old man. I just don't know if little friend has a method to break the formation? Senior Xian. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. Breaking the formation is easier said than done. Although this Xiao can see it, if this Xiao really wants to break the formation, this Xiao still has to think hard. Not to mention a few days, even dozens of days of racking my brains may not be able to do it. Since Senior Xian has already prepared, there is no harm in taking it out and letting this one see. Hee. Xiancheng waved his hand and a jade eye appeared in his hand. He handed it to Xiaohua and said, little friend Xiao, take a look. Seeing this, Xiaohua waved his hand and looked at Su Zhuoyang with a bitter smile. This Xiao can't bear it. Please explain it to me. And Su Zhuoyang nodded and took it. After he finished reading, he nodded slightly and told Xiaohua. It turned out that what was recorded in the jade eye was a 5 elements formation of Taoism. Although this formation looked simple and Xiaohua had never seen it before, it was similar to what Xiaohua said. Xiancheng was going to use the 5 elements formation against the 18 arhats. Senior Xian, it seems that this 5 elements formation needs formation plates and formation flags, right? Xiaohua asked with a bitter smile. Even if it needs the 4 immortals to refine it, I'm afraid that with Taoism's magic power, there will be a conflict. Formation plates? Formation flags? Xiancheng was slightly stunned and said curiously, this old man only knows about Taoism's formation diagrams and has never heard of any formation flags or formation plates. After he finished speaking, he looked at Su Zhuoyang who was explaining and smiled. Originally, to restrain this 18 arhats formation, the 4 symbols catalog of the 1,000 demons sacred realm is the most suitable. Unfortunately, this old man has no fate to go to the 1,000 demons sacred realm. Even little friend Leopard has probably never seen the 1,000 demons sacred realm's sacred array catalog, right? Hearing this, Leopard's spiritual master's face revealed a rare awkwardness and said with a smile, Junior's cultivation is shallow and has only heard of the Great Sage Hall. I have never known where this Great Sage Hall is. Therefore, I have never seen one of the Sacred Array Catalog's 4 symbols catalog. Yes, little friend Leopard, who is considered a reputable demon cultivator in the 1,000 demons sacred realm, has never seen it before. How could this old man get it? Xiancheng shook his sleeves and a formation diagram that was flashing with brilliance flew out. He said with a smile, therefore this old man could only settle for the next best thing and racked my brains to get this 5 elements evil punishing formation diagram. 5 elements evil punishing formation diagram. Bai Haojiao heard and immediately screamed. You actually dared to sneak into the Dragon Palace's treasury? And dared to steal this 5 elements evil punishing formation diagram from the treasury? Hee, what's wrong? Xiancheng said with a cold smile. You think this old man doesn't know that you went in before? Where did you get that jade water spirit from? If not for the jade water spirit, how could your cultivation catch up to this old man? Yu Bai Haojia was also somewhat shocked and pointed at Xiancheng, not knowing what to say. The Dragon Palace's treasury is also not yours. Wouldn't it be a waste if this old man didn't take it? Xiancheng sneered. How did you enter the Dragon Palace's treasury? This old man knows clearly. Formation diagram. At the side, Xiaohua smiled bitterly. He could ignore the tit-for-tat between Xiancheng and Bai Haojiao, but he couldn't ignore the formation diagram. He really didn't know what the formation diagram was. Xiaohua interrupted the two's bickering and reached out to ask, can this junior take a look? This time, Xiancheng hesitated slightly. Although he didn't quite understand what Xiaohua meant, he naturally knew that Xiaohua wanted to take a look from his hand gesture. However, inside the water avoidance pearl, in the depths of the West Sea, he didn't care about Xiaohua's strength. However, he didn't dare to give this formation diagram that was related to entering the West Sea's lost treasure to Xiaohua. Hee. Xiaohua immediately understood and said to Su Zhuoyang with slight embarrassment, this Xiao didn't say anything. You wait and listen to Senior Xian's instructions. If there's anything this Xiao needs to do, please speak. Su Zhuoyang naturally understood Xiancheng's cautiousness and explained Xiaohua's words. Xianqing nodded and took out 4 jade eyes from his sleeve and handed them to Su Zhuoyang, saying, "Little friend Su, this is the method to control the 5 elements evil punishing formation. You and these 3 little friends can comprehend it. This old man will place the formation diagram on it. After you finish comprehending it, we'll join forces to break the formation." Yes, this junior understands. Su Zhuoyang took the jade eyes and looked at them. He distributed different jade eyes to Master Qing Chun, Chu Muhuan, and Leopard Taoist Master. He also took one for himself and sat cross-legged to comprehend it. Chapter 31-29. Bai Haojiao. Xianqing glanced at Bai Haojiao in the distance and said, "This is the bottom of the West Ocean, a place where water-type spiritual energy is abundant. Moreover, we are from the Sea Clan, so in this 5 elements evil punishing formation, the Water Clan should have an absolute advantage. Originally, with the help of 4 little friends, this old man had a 40% chance of breaking the formation. Now that you're here, that chance has increased by another 20%. Our chance will be in this one move." "Hee, old turtle shell, are you trying to squeeze me dry?" Bai Haojiao laughed coquettishly, and the old turtle shell spoke again. "Damn it, then you should have a taste of this old man's turtle shell." Xianqing's face turned red, and he became angry. He then waved his sleeve, and another jade eye flew in front of Bai Haojiao. "This is the formation that this old man comprehended in the past. You should have a taste too." "Hee, what's so good about your turtle shell?" Bai Haojiao laughed again. "It's not like I haven't tasted it before. If you want to let me know the benefits of your turtle shell, then work hard. When we get out of this West Ocean lost treasure, this old man wants to have a taste of your turtle shell." Bai Haojiao's teasing was very obvious, and Xianqing's face turned red. His beady eyes flashed with a peculiar brilliance, and he looked at the others who were comprehending with their eyes closed, and said with a lewd smile, "Since you want to know, then this old man will definitely satisfy you. Don't worry. This old man will let you know what it means to be strong with age." Bai Haojiao laughed, and gave him a coquettish look, as if the previous grudge had completely disappeared. He took out the jade eye, and a trace of blue light appeared in it, as he carefully looked at it. Seeing that the 5 of them were all comprehending the jade eye, Xianqing's expression changed, and he flew up again, out of the brilliance of the water avoidance pearl, and towards the 18 Arhut formation, and looked at the formations one by one. After 2 full days, Xianqing's face became somewhat impatient, and the others opened their eyes one by one. "Everyone." Xianqing glanced at Bai Haojiao, and said with a bitter smile, "You all know that this old man and Bai Haojiao are the vice inspectors of the West Ocean, and we can't leave the Dragon Palace for a long time. This old man asked for leave to come here, and presumably Bai Haojiao is the same. We don't have much time left." "Yes, I understand." Su Zhuoyang exchanged glances with Wizard Qing Chun and the others before replying, "We've already understood how to control the formation map. As long as we follow your instructions, we can activate the formation map and imprison the 18 Arhut array in a short time. How long?" Xianqing raised his hand and stopped Su Zhuoyang from continuing. He asked somewhat impatiently, "It can probably stop them for the time it takes an incense stick to burn," Su Zhuoyang said after pondering for a moment. Clearly, the 4 of them had already discussed this earlier. The time it takes for an incense stick to burn will be sufficient. Xianqing nodded slightly, glanced at Bai Haojiao, and asked, "What do you think?" "Yes, I think so too." Bai Haojiao nodded and said, "If the time it takes for an incense stick to burn isn't enough, then let's push the water spirit diagram to the limit and break the 18 Arhut diagram. I'm afraid that no matter how much time we have, it will be useless." "Fellow immortal Xiao." When he heard up to here, Su Zhuoyang turned around and asked Xiao Hua, "Can fellow immortal use that seal again now? If fellow immortal can assist Senior Xian, that would be even better." "Of course." Xiao Hua waved his hand, and the seal of overturning the sea flew out of the space. It turned into a fist-sized seal, and landed in his hand. Oh. Bai Haojiao's snake eyes lit up. He looked at the small seal and said curiously, "Is this a Taoist Dharma artifact? It seems like it can really restrain the water spirit diagram. If its power is enough, it can also be useful in breaking the formation. Let's do it." Xianqing glanced at the seal of overturning the sea. He wasn't too surprised and waved his hand. Yes. Su Zhuoliang and the others didn't dare to be negligent. They all urged their origin power, and were about to fly up. Xianqing shouted again, "Two little friends, if your mounts can do it, let them out. If you can help, then do it." Yes, Junior understands. Chu Muhuan and Master Qingchen heard and waved their sleeves. The rainbow Luan and the cloud crane flew out respectively. "Let's go." Master Qingchen landed on the rainbow Luan. He pointed his finger, and the cracking cauldron flew out. A crimson flame flew out from the cauldron and suddenly exploded in midair. It was like an exploding lantern, covering Master Qingchen and the rainbow Luan. Everyone felt the entire brilliance heat up abruptly. The Buddha's light on Wizard Qingchen, and the phoenix's body flourished. This Buddha's light was like a fire that transformed into a ball of crimson fire. It charged out of the water avoidance pearl, and burned a space of several feet in size in the seawater, flying towards the east side of the formation map. Master Qingchen's flame was so hot that even though it had flown far away, the boiling hot breath could still penetrate the water spiritual energy of the West Sea and rush to everyone's faces. "I'm going." Immediately after, the leopard Taoist let out a roar and opened his mouth. The magnificent mountain box flew out. As the leopard Taoist spat out a mouthful of demonic energy, the magnificent mountain box emitted a dazzling yellow light. A heavy aura came from the magnificent mountain box, and a strand of dust rose from this aura. As soon as this small cloud of dust appeared, it forced the light of the water avoidance pearl to sway. It expanded by more than 10 feet. Then, with the sway of the light, the cloud of dust turned into a whirlwind that was several feet in size. The Earth's spiritual energy in the whirlwind was rich. When Leopard's spiritual master saw this, his body turned into the wind and rushed into the whirlwind. With another roar, he rushed to the north of the formation. Just as Leopard's spiritual master left, Su Zhuoyang's body flashed with a silvery white brilliance. The true qi in his middle dantian immediately rushed out of his body. Su Zhuoyang looked like a burning silvery white golden flame. Clang! There was the sound of a sword ringing. Su Zhuoyang opened his mouth, and the flying sword rushed out and fell into the true qi. The luster of the flying sword was golden. Boom! As the flying sword fell into the true qi was like the pitch-black rock layer under the twilight transformation technique. The entire true qi condensed, and in a moment, a flying sword that was several feet in size was born outside of Su Zhuoyang's body. The thin flame pattern was like the sword pattern of the flying sword. Go! Following Su Zhuoyang's sword-ringing sound, the golden flying sword rushed out of the light and fell on the west side of the formation. "It's this Chu's turn." Chu Muhuan waved his hand, and the rattan staff produced a green light. As the green light flashed, the entire rattan staff turned into a sprout. This sprout rapidly grew and turned into a small tree. In the end, it became a towering tree that was several tens of feet in size. Chu Muhuan opened his mouth again, and a mouthful of true qi rushed into the big tree. A rattan as thick as a child's arm grew on the thick tree trunk. The rattan coiled out and fell on Chu Muhuan's waist. Chu Muhuan's body flashed with a green brilliance, and fell on the roots of the big tree along with the rattan. The cloud crane also let out a cry and spread its wings to lift Chu Muhuan and the big tree, flying towards the south of the formation. Good. Xiancheng was overjoyed and opened the formation in his hand. A stream of light came out of the formation and rushed towards the 4 people who had already stabilized themselves in the air. It was like a picture being shaken into the mortal world. 5 different colored balls of light came out of the formation and rotated under the feet of the 4 people. "We'll go too." Xiancheng glanced at Bai Haojiao and said, "Although you and I have a grudge in the past, we can only work together today." Understood. Bai Haojiao's face was solemn and her entire body trembled violently. Countless amounts of water spirit qi rushed into her body from the sea, and a 3-meter-long python appeared again. Roar Xianming also let out a loud cry. A blue brilliance blossomed from his body, and a black tortoise the same size as the python appeared. As soon as the true forms of the python and the black tortoise appeared, countless tiny whirlpools appeared between them. The water spiritual energy rushed into the whirlpools like a swarm of bees, condensing into countless needle-shaped crystals in an instant. Almost without any sound, the black tortoise and the python left the water avoidance pearl and floated to the center of the formation. It was the largest blue ball of light among the 5 balls of light. Fall, just as the black tortoise and the python approached the light, Xiancheng's voice came out. Master Qing Chun and the other 4 balls of light fell into the formation. Shua, almost at the same time, the 5 balls of light were like 5 huge suns. They suddenly emitted a strong brilliance and rushed towards the 18 Arhut formation. Boom! The impact was like an earthquake. Xiaohua almost couldn't stand still in the air. The water avoidance pearl was shot far away in this impact. Fall, how could Xiaohua let the water avoidance pearl run away? Opening his heaven and earth sleeve, he forcefully trapped the water avoidance pearl above his head. Wang Wang, a violent roar sounded. In the center of the 5 balls of light, a whirlpool shaped like a tornado rushed into the sky. The black tortoise and the python were on both sides of the whirlpool. Countless needle-shaped crystals were born in this whirlpool and pierced towards the 18 Arhut formation. Every time those crystals pierced the formation, the entire seabed would shake. However, after half an incense stick's time, the power of the whirlpool was already somewhat weakened. However, the formation only trembled and didn't show any signs of collapse. Not good. Xiancheng's voice came. He said anxiously, "Little friend Xiao." Although Xiancheng didn't understand inscription armor, he called little friend Xiao very familiarly. Xiaohua understood as soon as he heard it. Urging the magic power in his body, the seal of ocean overturning seal immediately let out a roar. The little earth spiritual energy on the seabed swarmed in. The seal of ocean overturning seal immediately became half a mu in size. Go. Xiaohua's figure flew up and urged the secret technique. The coiling dragon on the seal smashed towards the center of the whirlpool. Rumble. An extremely strong vibration came from the center of the whirlpool. Clang, a bright light was born from the whirlpool. Ha! Xiaohua, who was in the air, saw this light and knew that the 18 Arhut formation was broken by his seal of ocean overturning seal. He couldn't help but stare blankly. He thought that although his seal of ocean overturning seal was powerful, looking at the previous situation, he would have to urge it a few more times to succeed. How could it be effective in one strike? Could it be that my magic power has greatly improved? Xiaohua was somewhat puzzled. Chapter 31:30. Okay, watch me. Without waiting for Xiaohua to think, Bai Haojiao's voice sounded. Then, the vortex suddenly expanded, and the light inside the vortex shone brightly. After a while, the light stopped growing stronger, and the vortex remained stable. Little friends, Xiancheng shouted in surprise. Let's quickly enter the treasury. This 5 elements evil punishing formation can last for 6 hours. Yes. Everyone was overjoyed. Each of them jumped out of the light and landed beside the light with a joyous look on their faces. It was a hole a few feet in size. It was the water ripple under the feet of the river Arhut in the 18 Arhuts formation. Around the hole, the Sanskrit characters that formed the water ripples churned violently, trying to gather towards the center to mend the hole. However, the blue water spiritual energy also spread out in all directions like a corrosive corrosion, negating the mend of the formation diagram. Looking at the other parts of the 5 elements evil punishing formation, it was the same as the water formation. At the same time, it emitted a strong elemental energy fluctuation to cover the Buddhist formation below, limiting the connection between them and weakening the power of the Sanskrit characters in the hole. The light emitted from the hole was a little red, and there was even a trace of heat. Moreover, the entire Buddhist formation blocked everyone's divine sense, Buddhist consciousness, and all kinds of eye-clearing techniques. No one could see the situation inside. Xiaohua landed beside the light and frowned. There was a trace of a fishy smell in this aura. It was the same as the aura he smelled when he was cultivating on Lava Island. Could it be that the West Sea relic is in the lava? Thinking of this, Xiaohua looked at Xiancheng and Bai Haojiao. At this time, the two monsters had already transformed into human form. Their faces were pale, and there was a trace of blue in the whiteness. It was obvious that they had consumed a lot of energy just now. However, their weak faces couldn't hide their surprise and helplessness. They looked at each other, and Xiancheng smiled bitterly. I didn't expect the West Sea relic to be in the lava. For our sea race, it's really difficult. Then, Xiancheng looked at Master Qingchen and smiled. Master, how about you go first? Okay, Master Qingchen already had a plan in mind. Hearing Xiancheng's order, he nodded without hesitation. Wait, Bai Haojiao hastily raised his hand and said, I'll go down with you, Venerable One. Anything is fine. Xiancheng was somewhat impatient. He seemed to be in a bad mood. He waved his hand and said, Let's hurry down and talk about it later. Bai Haojiao opened his mouth, and a semicircular jade bracelet flew out. He also breathed out a mouthful of water spiritual energy, and the jade bracelet turned into a watery light that protected Bai Haojiao. When Xiancheng saw this, he was stunned. He cried out in disbelief, West Dragon Ring. You. How can you have this item? However, just as Xiancheng finished speaking, he slapped his forehead as if he had come to a realization, and said regretfully, Alas, yes, you should have it. He must have given it to you. How could I have forgotten about him? Old turtle shell? Bai Haojiao was clearly surprised when he saw such an intense reaction from Xiancheng. A trace of understanding flashed across his snake eyes as he coldly said, Could it be that the half of the Western Dragon Ring that was long lost is in your hands? Who said so? Xiancheng raised his eyebrows and said faintly, I only know that the Western Dragon Ring is one of the treasures that was lost in the treasury of the West Sea Dragon Palace. I didn't expect it to be damaged and fall into your hands. Since we have this item, we can go down even if it's a place of fire. The chance of getting the relic has increased by another 10%. Seeing that Xiancheng did not admit it, Bai Haojiao had no choice. He looked at Master Qingchen, who was flashing with Buddhist light and had tiny flames mixed in the Buddhist light. Bai Haojiao's snake tail produced water vapor, and he slowly landed in the hole of the Buddhist formation. Master Qingchen did not dare to delay and flew down as well. Seeing the light above the hole, the water film of water spiritual energy did not obstruct them, and the two of them entered. Come in. After a moment, Bai Haojiao's somewhat disappointed voice was heard. Oh. Xiancheng heard the meaning in Bai Haojiao's voice, and his heart thumped. He did not have time to greet Su Zhuoyang and the others, and immediately jumped into the light. Let's go. When Xiancheng entered the Buddhist sect, Su Zhuoyang sighed. How could he not know that there was a problem again? He waved his hand, called Xiaohua, and jumped in as well. Xiaohua's eyes turned a few times, and he looked to his left. The water blue brilliance above his head had become pitch black, and an incomparably strong pressure came from the darkness. Xiaohua understood that he was now at the bottom of the sea, and everything had to withstand the heavy pressure of the water. He did not have the water escape technique, and could only survive under the protection of the water avoidance technique. If he wanted to reach the surface, he had to rely on the water spiritual energy of Xiancheng and Bai Haojiao, the two West Sea Patrol inspectors. He had no other choice. Let's go, it's lava on both sides. Others may be afraid, but I am not. Xiaohua thought for a moment, and also jumped into the Buddhist formation. Chu Muhuan and Leopard Spiritual Master also entered. As soon as Xiaohua entered the Buddhist formation, an extremely hot aura hit him in the face. This extremely hot aura cut his face, wave after wave, as if it was endless. The dark golden brilliance protecting Xiaohua's body slowly flashed under the sharp heat waves. Xiaohua frowned slightly. He had no choice but to urge his true origin to replenish the consumption of the golden light protecting his body from time to time. Clearly, this was a space that was hundreds of feet wide, and divine sense could not be used. Xiaohua's eyes could only see craggy rocks, and it looked like an ordinary cave. However, the rocks were scarlet red, and within that scarlet color, there were specks of Buddhist light. This Buddhist light was like millions of fireflies, covering the entire space. Although hundreds of feet of space was large, Xiaohua finished looking at it in a moment, and a thoughtful expression appeared on his face. Yes, the space was large enough, but there were no treasures. As for the passage leading to the depths, there was also nothing. How could it look like a lost treasure of the West Sea? Xiancheng and the others were obviously stunned. After looking around like Xiaohua, Xiancheng said, "Young friend Su, that Mo Yuntong seems to only say that there is a Buddhist sect, and you need to use the 4 symbols or 5 elements formation to break the formation, right?" "Yes, Senior Xian." Su Zhuoyang nodded. It also explained in detail how to break the 4 symbols or 5 elements formation, but this detail is also a general idea, and it needs to be carried out according to the specific formation diagrams. It didn't even mention the name of the Buddhist formation. As for the inside of the Buddhist formation, it didn't mention a single word. I thought that the lost treasure was inside the Buddhist formation. As he spoke, Su Zhuoyang reached out to take out Mo Yuntong. "Forget it, there's no need to take it out." Xiancheng waved his hand and said, "This old man has seen that thing countless times. Every single word and sentence in the book was clear." Yes, Su Zhuoyang heard and his hand stopped. Xiancheng was right. He had seen Mo Yuntong many times, and there was no need to look at it again. How is that possible? Bai Haoju mocked. If the lost treasure is inside the Buddhist formation, then the cultivator who came here earlier, the one who left Mo Yuntong behind, has already entered the treasury? Didn't he take away the lost treasure long ago? Why did he leave Mo Yuntong behind? This old man thought. Xiancheng said. The person who recorded Mo Yuntong was the same as when I came here for the first time. He only used the thunder condensing bead to break the restriction formation outside the Buddhist formation. When he encountered the 18 Arhut formation, he was helpless. He could only study it for a long time, record the situation in Mo Yuntong, and leave helplessly. Therefore, my previous discussion with you was about how to break the formation. Of course, all of this was an assumption made under the circumstances that Bai Haojiao and Xiaohua hadn't come. I never expected that the two of you would actually show up, especially Bai Haojiao. If you work together with me, all of our troubles will vanish into nothingness. All of our plans will be useless. But this old man, I didn't expect that. There was still another world inside. Since we're here, we still need to work hard. Su Zhuoyang thought for a moment and said, since we can break the 18 Arhut formation, it's not impossible for us to go further. This is a Buddhist formation. Speaking of this, Su Zhuoyang's eyes suddenly lit up. He seemed to have thought of something and cried, by the way, I remember that Mo Yuntong mentioned looking for a person from the Buddhist sect. Yes, that's right. Xiancheng also smiled. Because the people from the Buddhist sect have Buddhist awareness, they can distinguish the Buddhist formation. This old man thought that Master Qingchen could play a role in breaking the formation, but I didn't expect that. You could still play a vital role here. Master Qingchen, Leopard Immortal couldn't help but cry. Can you still use your Buddhist awareness? Master Qingchen said curiously. Of course. Is it possible that? Haha, yes, my elemental spirit skill is useless. Xiancheng said with a smile. What about Su and Chu? Junior's divine awareness skill and mind-clearing skill are useless. Su Zhuoyang and Chu Muhuan said in unison. Well, Master Qingchen, please release your Buddhist awareness and take a closer look. Bai Haojiao hurriedly nodded and said, is there anything strange in this cave? Yes, this poor nun understands. A strange look appeared on Master Qingchen's face. He released his Buddhist awareness and explored the space inch by inch. This space was also strange. It seemed to be able to perceive Master Qingchen's Buddhist awareness. Wherever the Buddhist awareness passed, there would be a faint Buddhist light flickering, and Sanskrit characters flowed in the Buddhist light. Strange. Xiaohua looked at the Sanskrit characters that were somewhat similar to the golden rune in the Buddhist light, and was really puzzled. Normally, the Buddhist formation should be filled with golden rune. It's just like. But when he thought of this, he laughed inwardly. Damn it, the runes of my Taoist sect are actually not ordinary runes. The runes in the soul formation are not all green seal script. And the runes used in the 1,000,000 Meng Mountains are only similar to the green seal script. So, how is it possible that the Buddhist sect is using the golden inscription? It must have taken hundreds of millions of years to evolve into Sanskrit and use it as the foundation of the Buddhist formation. This Sanskrit should have the same function as Buddhist seals or runes, right? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.